All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councillor Mackey,
Present.
Councillor Gamble,
Present.
Councillor Burley,
Present.
Councillor Carlton,
Present.
Councillor McQueen,
Present.
Councillor Desai,
Present.
Councillor Patterson,
Present.
Warden Hicks,
Here.
Councillor Clumpus,
Here.
Councillor Keaveney,
Present.
Councillor Body, Councillor O'Leary sends his regrets, Councillor Thomas,
Present.
Councillor Woodbury,
Present.
Councillor Milne,
Present.
Councillor Soever,
Present.
Councillor Bordignon,
Present.
Councillor Robinson,
Present.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
Confirm we have all of council here with the exception of Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We'll turn next to the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, Wyandot peoples, on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and the Inuit, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all of its diverse peoples. Madam Clerk, I'll turn to you to make an introduction of someone new at this table.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, we do have a new staff member on this table. I'd like to introduce Sarah Goldrup to you. She's our deputy clerk, and this is her second week. She comes to us with a lot of great experience in the clerk's department from other municipalities, so we're very happy to have her here.
Thank you and welcome. Okay, so we are on to item number 6 now. Oh, no, declaration of interest. My apologies. Is there anyone with a declaration of interest, pecuniary or otherwise? That's Councillor Mellon.
Sorry, Mr. Warden, I believe my declaration of interest will be in the committee of the whole, not council.
Sorry, if interest does arise during the course of the meeting, I would ask you to declare it at that time. We're on to item number 6, adoption of minutes. First 6A is the Warden's Forum minutes dated June 16th, 2022. I'm looking for a mover and seconder to get the item. Moved by Deputy Warden McQueen and seconded by Councillor Bordignon. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item 6B is County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes dated June 23rd, 2022. Looking for a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Hutchison, excuse me. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item 6C is Committee of the Whole closed meeting minutes, which are dated June 23rd, 2022. I need a mover, please, to put it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Mellon, seconded by Councillor Carlton. Well, we'd have to go into close, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item 6D is the Long-Term Care Redevelopment Task Force minutes, which are dated June 28th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Patterson. Any discussion? I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have no closed meeting matters for item 7. And at item A, we have 2 bylaws that you have before you. I'll need a mover to put those on the floor. Moved by Councillor Burley, seconded by Councillor Bordignon. Any discussion on those 2 bylaws? Seeing none, once again, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Item 9, good news and celebration. Anyone have anything to report? Councillor Robinson, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning to you, staff and county council. The Lance Bridge in West Gray has been replaced with an innovative wooden bridge. This was an extensive capital project that was partially funded through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, the Rural and Northern Stream, in addition to West Gray's budgeted funding. I'm extending a thank you from West Gray Council and staff in our communications and public works departments to the county's IT department, particularly the GIS team under our contracted hours agreement, and the talented Matthew Wortman, who shot the video. The video is available on our West Gray website. One other acknowledgement or celebration, if I might, Mr. Warden. I had the opportunity to attend at Grey Roots Museum and Archives to not only renew my family membership, but also to partake in the current exhibits, just experience those current exhibits, including the Moorestown Heritage Visit. And I would encourage everyone from County Council and our Grey County citizens to take a visit out to our wonderful museum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson. Next is Councillor Soever.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, I'd like to report that Canada Day in the Blue Mountains was very successful. It started off with a pancake breakfast at the Legion. In spite of the rainy morning, over 200 people partook of the breakfast in the Legion parking lot. And, it was a very good turnout, given the fact that it was raining quite hard. That was followed at 11 o'clock by a Canada Day parade from Clarksburg through to Thornbury, which ended in downtown Thornbury, and there were muffins served up by the Thornbury Bakery there. And so there was a very good turnout at the parade. There was a lot of people lining the route. Many people brought their antique cars. There were a number of floats with farm tractors pulling wagons that were very nicely decorated. So all in all, Canada Day was a great success. And the next day that was followed by a lobster fest. And I see Peter, who has his hand up, was the organizer of that. So I'll let Councillor Bourguignon talk about the lobster fest on the 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the warden, thank you. We did have our lobster fest on the Saturday night. We have a grants and donations committee, so all money raised don't come from taxation when local groups ask us for money in the community. So we've switched over the past few years to fundraising from the community to spend within the community, and we had served over 460 lobster dinners, which raised with some local philanthropy, we raised almost $50,000. And that goes back into the grants and donations committee meeting group, which will distribute those this September to all local organizations, from Cub Scouts to BVO to Events for Life throughout the community. So we're thrilled that we raised that much money this year, and we had some great local support and a few good sponsors and a great turnout. So thank you for that, Mr. Warden.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Soever and Bourguignon. Are you finished, Councillor Soever? Is there anything else? I'm gathering you are. So next is Councillor Desai.
Thank you very much, Warden Hicks. I bring great news this time. The last 2 times I've risen at this point, it's been pretty sober news. This time I'm bringing news that the Markdale Fall Fair is back. It's the dates are the 26th, 27th, 28th of August. I hope everyone comes out to see me either defend or better my reserve champion finish in the cattle show from the last time the fair was held. Hey, not jeers, Councillor Milne, that's cause for celebration. Point of order. The Feversham Fall Fair has also announced its dates, September 16, 17, and 18. So I'm still waiting to hear back on the dates for the Rockland Fall Fair, where I have usually baked a pie and it's gone for hundreds of dollars. I don't know if they've eaten it after, but they've lived either way. The last one is the Grey Highlands Municipal League, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization in Grey Highlands, which has actively tried to get people interested in running for municipal politics. I had a candidate information session last night. About roughly 50 people or more came out of which, give or take, 20 to 25 people requested further information on running for council and being on council. So there was some positive news there, and some positive thoughts in the front of more participation in local politics. The person behind the organization is Dave Meslin, who we may know as the Lego Man from Election Night on CBC. He's an advocate for electoral reform and very passionate about municipal politics as well. So thank you very much, Warden Hicks.
Thank you, Councillor Desai. Go ahead. Yeah.
Forgot one last thing. This one's not necessarily good news, but it's good fiscal practice. The last Grey Highlands Council meeting, we received and approved the tender for winter sand and salt, which came in at almost double the budgeted amount. And we used our winter maintenance reserve for that to cover the overage. And I just wanted to point out that usually at budget time, we do hear from various people, constituents, and colleagues about how we should return the reserve back to the taxpayer, or return the surplus back to the taxpayer. And I just want to point out that had Grey Highlands done that every single time, we would have had to raise the taxes about 1.02% to cover that overage on the winter sand and salt. So I just wanted to bring that as a good fiscal practice from staff at Grey Highlands. And the last part, you mentioned something happened at 4:30 this morning. Unfortunately, I do not subscribe to the lifestyle of waking up before the sun is up. So if you would enlighten us, Warden Hicks, on what happened this morning, I would appreciate that.
It was just a lot of fog. There was a pile of fog and you could barely see your hand in front of you. I won't repeat that. Next is Councillor Body.
Thank you very much, Warden Hicks. I just completed breakfast with some Army veterans, war veterans from Afghanistan who are doing a ruck walk. So they're carrying a rucksack of 50 pounds. They're walking the Bruce Trail from started in Tobermory, working their way down to Niagara. And it's one to raise awareness and financial support. It's a fundraiser for Leave Streets Behind homeless veterans. Amazing talk with them. One of them has suffered a lot of stress as a result of the ending of his military career and the inability to talk to people of like mind. They've raised $500,000 in the last, I think, 8 years. They hope to raise another $500,000 this year alone. There'll be an event later today at the Owen Sound Legion and each Legion as they go down the Bruce Trail. Also in the military vein, the HMCS, Her Majesty's Canadian ship, is Oreo is in the harbor here from 1 until 4 o'clock today with, I think it's actually from 10 till 4 today. It's a 100-year-old, I think, cutter. No, it can't be quite that old. Well, it could be. It's 2022. Cutter that was given to the Navy. It was on the West Coast, now on the East Coast, and they use it to try and attract people to consider the Navy. Most importantly, last Thursday, I was pleased to join Warden Hicks and Kim and Anne Marie Shaw and our MPP Byers to welcome Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark, here to tour the Women's Center second stage housing, that there's been some upgrades made there and added some units, as well as touring our own project over in 14th Street, which is bare bones right now with blueprints in the wall, and it's going to look amazing once it's completed. And Minister Clark was pretty excited about it, and a very genuine guy, and it was great to have him in our municipality of Grey County to see some of the work we're doing in housing. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Body. Anyone else? I will just maybe mention that I had the opportunity, and I want to congratulate Grey Roots and the volunteers there for organizing the session that I believe Councillor Body and Councillor Woodbury, you attended as well, to commemorate and to remember the number 2 construction battalion. If you don't know about the number 2 construction battalion, they were the first and only, I hope I'm right in saying that, all Black military battalion in the Second World War. I'm wrong in something, aren't I, Councillor Body? Correct me, please. My apologies. In the First World War. And these men actually had to fight quite hard for the ability to fight, for the ability to serve. And it I was quite taken by the story. There was a film as well. So they won the right to serve, and after winning the right to serve, they boarded a ship, and the ship had difficulty having an escort because why would you want to have an escort for Black soldiers? And so they went over there, and instead of being issued guns, they were issued shovels. And their job was to lay wire, to dig trenches, to bury bodies, to, you know, I guess, harvest trees for the building of bridges and whatnot. So very, very hard labor. The intent of that labor was to make the point that Black people were not suitably equipped to serve in the military. So they wanted to, you know, break them essentially. And so these men worked in horrible conditions, were not issued proper gear like socks. And so they had problems with their feet. So just horrendous treatment that they received. And you may have heard in the news that on the 9th of July, the Prime Minister issued a formal apology to the descendants of those soldiers. And my understanding is that there's going to be a commemorative coin issued in honor of the number 2 construction battalion. So with all that said, I learned a lot, and I just want to thank again Grey Roots and all of the volunteers. Jean Augustine was there. It was wonderful. I've never met Jean Augustine actually, so it was a pleasure to have the opportunity to meet her and to see the film that was put on. It was an excellent event. All right, are we finished with good news and celebrations? I think we are. So now we're just looking to adjourn, is that correct? So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Woodbury, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We'll just take a second to switch over to Committee of the Whole. Okay, so we are now meeting as a Committee of the Whole, and I'll call this meeting to order. Is there any declaration of interest, Council? Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and I'll declare an interest in item number 6G as the applicant is a family member. So I will not be participating in the debate or vote on that item.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else with an interest, pecuniary or otherwise? Seeing none, once again, if one does come up during the course of the meeting, I would ask you to declare it at that time. All right, so item number 3, business arising from the minutes. And we do have a motion that's proposed here. I'm going to ask for a mover to put it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Carleton and seconded by Councillor Hutchison. Any discussion on the motion before you? Does anyone need an explanation as to why we're having this motion come before us, or are we good to vote? Councillor Soever.
Yes, Mr. Warden, I wholeheartedly support this motion. Last week when the matter came up and this report was received in closed session, I expressed a concern that perhaps we should be dealing with it in open session, and I'm glad therefore that this motion is being brought forward, and I'm very happy to support this motion. Thank you.
Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, Council. The report in question was discussed in closed session as it dealt with identifiable individuals. Council has had their discussions, and the identifiable individuals in the report both agree that we're very comfortable to have the information now be in the public sphere. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so time to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, time for our delegations. First, are we? But Dave is here. Okay, so maybe move on to another item. Okay. Okay. Dave, I apologize. I will be calling on you, but we are interestingly ahead of time. And it's just been pointed out to me that certain viewers may be joining in, wanting to join in to see your presentation. So we'll hold off and allow for people to come in at the right time so that they can see your presentation as well. So Council, with your leave, I'd like to move on to item 5, items requiring separate discussion from the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be pulled from that list? Okay, seeing none, then I will ask for a mover to approve the consent agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Bordignon. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay. And maybe we'll deal with item 7A. Sorry. Right, 7B. I understand. Okay, my apologies. I'm hearing now that we are dealing with item 7B. So that puts Randy on deck. That's the Eden Oak Camperdown subdivision final report. I need a mover to put the item on the floor. So moved by, I can't see the folks online. Moved by Councillor Hutchison and seconded by Councillor Bordignon. Randy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, everyone. So the purpose of this report is to bring forward a recommendation to committee regarding a proposed plan of subdivision in the Town Blue Mountains, known as the Eden Oak Camperdown subdivision. The application was submitted to the county and deemed complete in the fall of 2018. The subject lands are shown on the screen, and they're located at part of lot 26, concession 6. They're approximately 6.6 hectares in size. The area proposed for actual development is just over half of that, about 3.9 hectares proposed for development. Lands are currently vacant. A good portion of the properties you can see in the air photo are covered by trees. Lands to the north include some existing residential lots. There's the Georgian Trail that you can also see that's adjacent to Highway 26 there. Lands directly west and east of subject lands are currently vacant. And lands to the south include existing single attached.
Sorry, Randy, just one quick sec.
Can you switch to the podium?
Thank you. Okay, we're good to go, Randy.
Excellent. So yeah, so the subject lands as you can see on the screen and now can see virtually as well. The lands are outlined and highlighted in blue on the screen there. The initial proposal was to create 34 single attached units to be accessed via a condo road. And the latest proposed version of the subdivision is a total of 33 single attached lots fronting on a public road that will be owned and maintained by the town. Changes were made to the plan to address comments received from agencies, the town, as well as the county. There is an open space block that you'll see at the southern portion of the subdivision plan. This is associated with the Nipissing Ridge as part of the Niagara Escarpment. So those lands will be protected and be dedicated to the town as per the conditions of draft approval. There is a walkway block that's proposed off of Street A to connect to the open space lands, and there are proposed trails that are a trail that would be through those open space lands to provide opportunities to connect. And I think the long-term plan is hopefully provide some connections to the Georgian Trail within this area as well. Servicing to the proposed subdivision will be via municipal water and sewer services. There are no further applications required as part of this proposed development, as the official plans and zoning for the subject lands already permit the proposed development. There was pre-submission consultation between the proponent, town, and Grace Sauble and NEC that identified the submission requirements for the proposed application, and all the reports and plans can be found on the county's website, and there's a link provided in the staff report to that. There was a public meeting that was held on July 8th, 2019. There's a summary of the public comments along with a staff response that are detailed in the staff report. I'll just highlight some of the comments and how these comments have been addressed from a staff perspective. So we did receive comments questioning conformity with official plan policies, given that the lands are within a unique neighborhood. Concerns about density, concern about lot shapes and sizes being too small, concerns that the development being compatible with the area and the development changing the character of the street, and concerns about the proposed trail and this potentially going through people's properties. From a staff perspective, the proposed development conforms with the policies of the county and town official plans, as well as the old Lakeshore Road neighborhood plan. And this is a specific plan for this neighborhood that was recently supported by town council. The proposed density is in keeping with the maximum density that's set out in the town's official plan. The lot sizes shapes are permitted based on the current zoning for the subject lands. The lands are also designated in the settlement area and are planned for this type of development. That proposed hiking trail that I mentioned is not located on public lands. Those will be lands, again, mentioned that would be dedicated to the town. Other comments received concerned about impacts to the natural environment and the removal of trees and green space. Concerned that potential butternut trees were impacted based on initial site investigations and archaeological work being conducted on the site. Concerned about impact to bird habitat and animals and disruption to quiet nature. From a staff perspective, an environmental impact study was completed to the satisfaction of Grace Sauble, the NEC, and there's recommended conditions of draft approval that both those agencies recommended that have been incorporated. There were some initial trees removed to aid with site investigations and archaeological investigations. However, Grace Sauble confirmed that in their opinion, no butternuts were removed. The town, the county has since revised our process to ensure that trees removed as part of site investigations or archaeological work is conducted following review and acceptance of the initial EIS. And we highlight this as part of the pre-submission consultation process. Any preliminary tree removal or for site investigations are minimized, and we look for opportunities now to delay later stages of archaeological assessment work, especially when there's within natural heritage features, until after draft approval. Any further tree removal to be completed in accordance with the EIS and future tree protection retention plan. And there's over 40% of lands, which include the Nipissing Ridge, that will be protected over the long term. Other comments received from the public, there was concern about traffic increases, concern that the existing road providing access site won't be able to handle the increased traffic, and the road should be left as is. Concern that access to Highway 26 and that the access development should be created off of another road. It was identified that should come off Camperdown Road. From a staff comment perspective, traffic impact assessment was completed and it confirmed that the existing road can accommodate the additional traffic. The TIS was reviewed by town staff and they have no concerns. The traffic impact assessment also confirms that no intersection improvements are required and there are no improvements or widenings that are proposed to the old Lakeshore Road, which this subdivision would get access to at this time. As noted, the subject lands only have frontage along Old Lakeshore Road, and therefore alternative access to Camperdown Road is not possible. We received comments from a number of agencies, Historic Saugeen Métis, Hydro One, they have no objection. Union Gas, they have no objections to proposed development and recommended necessary easements or agreements be provided to provide gas service. Canada Post recommended conditions of draft approval regarding location and placement of mailboxes. And Grace Sauble indicated they have no objections to the proposed development, subject to the hazard lands being zoned and subject to the conditions regarding things like detailed stormwater management, sediment erosion control plan, the vegetation management tree retention plan, and that a permit's going to be required for certain portions of the development. These conditions have all been incorporated into the recommended conditions of draft approval. We also received comments from the Niagara Escarpment Commission. They recommended draft plan conditions, and again, those conditions have been incorporated into the recommended conditions. In terms of the Town of the Blue Mountains, Town Council supported the approval of the draft plan and recommended conditions of draft approval. Town Council did request that a condition be added requiring an assessment to be completed by the developer for the hazard lands to assess any potential risks and liabilities prior to the town acquiring these lands. And that condition has been added to the recommended conditions of draft approval. The Town Council also supported the approval of this subdivision conditional on receiving an explanation from Grey County as to how this application complies with certain sections of the Planning Act, as well as the provincial policy statement. So these matters have been addressed as part of the planning analysis section of the report. I'll just highlight some of the comments we noted regarding these sections. And these sections relate specifically to affordable housing provisions. So the proposed units will not be affordable as defined by the provincial policy statement or the county official plan. This particular area of the town is, in staff's opinion, not ideally suited for affordable housing, given the lack of public service facilities and other complete community attributes nearby that we would normally want to see nearby affordable housing so that folks can easily access those facilities and attributes. There are also limits on development density that apply to these lands as per the town's official plan and the Old Lakeshore Road neighborhood plan. Also notes that, as I mentioned earlier, that the predominant housing type in this area is expected to be single attached units, and that recognizes the unique character and natural features within this area of the town. In terms of the tools that the county and municipalities have regarding the provision of affordable housing, that was outlined in that staff report that staff presented at the last committee of the whole meeting in June 23rd, and a link to that staff report has been provided in the report. In terms of the analysis of the planning issues, those have been provided in the staff report. And I'll just note that following a review of the various documents and policies, county staff are of the opinion that the proposed development, along with the recommended conditions of draft approval, has regard for matters of provincial interest under the Act, is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms with the Niagara Escarpment Plan, conforms with the county plan and the town official plan. Therefore, staff recommend that the subdivision be draft approved, subject to the conditions of draft approval. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Randy. There's a question from Councillor Soever.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. And to Randy, how has the developer been provided with the healthy development checklist as required under section 4.17 of the county official plan?
Through you, we do provide that healthy development checklist and note it as part of the pre-consultation discussions with developers. I would note, however, that those pre-submission consultation discussions happened prior to our new official plan coming into effect. So the healthy development checklist is part of our new official plan. This application actually predates our new official plan. And therefore, some of the policies in our new official plan don't necessarily apply to this particular development.
Yes, thank you. I'm aware of that. And then just one other question. On the application form, I note that there is no price point provided by the developer. Did we ask the developer for what the pricing is?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. So we do note that in our applications. We do have it, I think in brackets, I can't remember the exact wording, if it's available. We find that especially with the current market conditions, the construction price increases that we've all been experiencing over the last couple of years, that it's very difficult for developers to provide even an estimate of what those unit prices will be. No doubt they do their initial pro formas, but things change, and we've seen some drastic changes over the last couple of years that would no doubt have a significant impact to developers' performance when they're doing those. So even if those are provided, and in some cases they're not, in this case I don't think they provided it. I think it was noted to be determined. Is that it's very difficult for them to estimate, and we have nothing really to require them to stick to those prices, even if they do provide an estimate, because they are just that. They're just estimates if they are provided.
Yes, and I realize that, but the question was, did we try to ask them? And, you know, what did they tell us?
I can't recall the time of the application that was submitted back in 2018. I can't recall if we did. I don't anticipate that we did, because that's not a common practice. That, again, we try to encourage people to fill out the application the best that they can, but noting that that's not a specific requirement in our application to date. It's only if it is available.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Warden, I'd like to report that we did question the developer at length that after the deputation of their planning consultant, Vanessa Simpson of Innovative Planning Solutions, on June 6th at our council meeting here. And they did respond to our question with regard to pricing. And the pricing on this development starts at $1.9 million. That's $1.9 million for 60-foot lots, and higher on the 70-foot lots. So we do have a concern that, you know, in spite of the fact, you know, the affordable housing question is one question, but it talks about a range of housing types in the provincial policy statement, and it would seem that $1.9 million and above is reflecting a rather narrow range, which, you know, is you know, serving a very narrow range of the market. So that would be one concern that we have. And I would like to also highlight the fact that upon investigation, we found that there was no geotechnical report on the slope stability of the rather steep slope, and that is why town council, you know, it talks about the open space block that is to be dedicated to the town. We as a town don't know if we wish to accept that, given that, you know, and that's why we asked for the condition assessment that Randy referred to. And in general, we're finding that developers are wanting to give us all of the hazard lands. When the hazard lands are a steep slope, which is prone to failure. We've had a number of landslides at the ski slopes, and also one which affected 2 homes a few years ago on Arrowhead Road. The town is getting extremely cautious about accepting hazard lands, particularly when they're steep slopes, because should that slope fail and you know, slump onto other people's properties in the future, that could be a risk. So yeah, so we recognize that this planning application happened before the official plan so that the affordable housing issues may not apply. We will wait for our appeal of the or review initially of the Ontario Land Tribunal hearing to see to what extent provincial policy statements may apply. But, we are concerned that, we are getting a lot of developments which are extremely expensive. Which preclude the average Ontarian from moving into this part of Grey County. The new the income statistics came out yesterday, and the 1,000 new family households that moved into the Blue Mountains, based on the change in the income levels from 2015 to 2020 between the two censuses. An analysis indicates that the average household income of those families that moved into this area was $235,000, which is about 2.4 times the average income of a household in Grey County. So we are concerned that we aren't meeting a range of housing types, and we aren't serving a large part of the population. And so council here did have a concern with that, and those are my comments. And I would urge staff to ask people, because they will tell you the price range, but initially they'll say they don't know, but if pushed and they believe that if they don't tell them that it might go a little slower, then they come up with a range. And we've had great success in getting that number from developers when we ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sauvager. Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Randy, very comprehensive report. Thank you very much. I note in your report that the town of Blue Mountains has a maximum density in their official plan. And I'm wondering how that density affects, or rather compares, to the provincial recommendations. And having that arbitrary maximum density, does that affect the price points of these developments?
Through you, Mr. Warden. So in this particular area, the designation is a recreational resort area designation. In the town's official plan, they set a maximum density of 10 units per hectare. For our settlement areas, so for our other settlement areas, like our primary settlement areas that are fully serviced areas, this area is also a fully serviced area. We generally have in our official plans 20 units to 25 units as a minimum density recommendation. And that's, again, just to utilize any full services as well as any public service facilities that are available in those primary settlement areas, make sure that the density is appropriate to be able to maximize those opportunities. In terms of, do our densities have an impact in terms of the price point? Absolutely. And I think that's where, I guess, the one study that I forget what it's called, density is not a dirty word or whatever, that was done by university students. It notes that by increasing density, by having higher density developments, that's when you get some further efficiencies that can be gained, and therefore price points can usually become lower because you're able to get in more units on a per hectare basis. So that's something that we want to explore further. Obviously, with local municipalities, when we're updating official plans, is to look for those opportunities to be able to increase density, especially in areas where we have full services. And especially in terms of from an affordable housing perspective, make sure that they're located in areas that have those public service facilities, that they have grocery stores, that they have other facilities, banks and medical clinics and other things that they will need to access as well. And by having those close by, that helps to reduce your overall transportation costs to be able to get to those locations. So that's where in this particular area of the county, we wouldn't recommend or support necessarily affordable housing in this location, but in our primary settlement areas, for sure, we would recommend and support looking at how we can increase and have higher densities in those areas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Gamble?
Yeah, Randy, with the affordable housing, that's been kind of our emphasis for the last year. And I realize this is pre that. And, when you look at the thing and affordable housing, if that's what we're after, why are we not? I know you say the thing has no teeth, really. We can't enforce that, right? But why are we not spending more time on this? And you said that probably the reason is that we don't have the services there for affordable housing, right? Is that kind of what you're?
In this particular location, yeah, there's the closest service facilities that we would recommend be nearby affordable housing would be, say, in Thornbury or in Collingwood. And it's this location is actually almost bang on in between both Thornbury and Collingwood. So there is some distance that someone would have to travel between this location to Thornbury and Collingwood in order to get access to those services. And that's why, trying to have our affordable housing as close by to those settlement areas is key. In terms of, you're correct, Councillor Gamble, we don't have any tools or mechanisms, and that was highlighted in that staff report previously, to be able to require that a certain percent of units be at affordable housing levels. That's what we call inclusionary zoning, and that's currently not available to county or member municipalities. There is a process that you can go through to activate that at the local municipal level, and that was highlighted in that staff report. And that's something that we'd be happy to work with member municipalities to move forward. We also have, as per council's request, a delegation at AMO to encourage the province to be able to provide more flexibility when it comes to those tools. It is quite an onerous process to be able to get to be able to apply inclusionary zoning. So to level the playing field between municipalities that are, say, more urban versus more rural municipalities, we're making requests to the province to try to provide that flexibility so that areas such as Grey County and their member municipalities can apply similar tools to require affordable housing. But again, we want to make sure that those are in locations that make the most sense, where we want to actually have that affordable housing in our neighborhoods, that we're not creating then another issue of causing transportation issues further. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, Councillor Milne is quite correct. There are issues with some of the zoning, particularly in our R11 zone where a 60-foot lot is required. We are in the process of updating our official plan, and we hope that through that process we'll be able to become far more flexible. The other issue we have is this recreational resort area, which affects the county official plan as well. It's a pseudo settlement area. It's not an official settlement area, but it's regarded as a settlement area. So I'm hoping that we can resolve that through our official plan update, and I hope the county official plan update 11 can also resolve that, in that, if it acts like a settlement area, then it should be called a settlement area and not be kind of like a halfway in between. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think it's time to call the question. All those in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. But I see 2 opposed, but nevertheless, it is carried. Okay, I think we're going to go back now to our first delegation who's been waiting patiently. Steve, are you going to introduce? Savannah is going to introduce Dave.
Excellent, thank you. Good morning, County Council. Really excited to introduce Dave Barrett today. I'm sure he's a very familiar face to many of you around the table. We have been working with Dave for many years. He is our OEAP recruiter, which is the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, and working for both school boards in Grey and Bruce. So he has a very valuable role and has been just a wonderful partner. He's always the guy that we can count on, and he's getting things done. He has some amazing news to be able to share with you through this presentation, and to also be able to help shed a light on some of the very confusing pathways. He's been working with Steve and I for years, trying to make us understand what apprenticeship pathways look like, and we are just starting to wrap our heads around it, but he makes it look so easy. So without further ado, I'm really pleased to bring Dave Barrett to the podium for a delegation to you this morning. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Warden, council staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this morning. I'm just waiting for my presentation to come up. I get rocking and rolling. What I'm going to try and do today is give you a sense of the message that our students are hearing in all of our schools in Grey Bruce, and then celebrate a little bit of the successes that we've had over the past 10 years. And then I'll be open to any questions. So as introduced, Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. My job is to make sure students understand the pathways. College and university are great ways to go. They're very clear. Students understand those. Apprenticeship is post-secondary education. It's just a different way of doing it. My job is to make sure students understand it before they start listening to people who haven't got a clue what they're talking about. It's a first choice pathway. Students are preparing in our high schools right now and are going into these great careers. Quick example that usually gets the students' attention. According to Maclean's magazine in 2017, the average cost of post-secondary education, in this case university, was $19,498.75 per year in order to go on. University and college are great ways to go, but you have to go with a plan. In education, those pathways are pathways. I think they're just tools. They're a tool you use to get to where you want to go next. So at $19,498.75, you have to get some value for that. So I do a quick comparison between a young lady that I registered when I first took this position. She became a plumber versus a student who goes to university. In Leah's first year as a plumbing apprentice, she probably made minimum wage. Today's dollars, that's about $32,000. Student going to university paid $19,498.75 for their first year. Excellent. Leah went to trade school, passed trade school, came back, worked for another year, got a bit of a pay bump. Her third year, same thing happens. She works for a year, learns on the job, goes to trade school, gets a bit of a pay bump. Fourth year, it's a 5-year apprenticeship to become a plumber. She'd go to trade school, she'd get a bit of a pay bump, and she still hasn't completed, because in the construction sector, you have to complete a certain number of hours to become a plumbing licensed plumber. So far, a 4-year university degree on average in 2017 cost $77,995, and that has to be paid back. So if students have the benefit of parents, grandparents, bursaries, those types of things, but quite a bit of that actually goes to debt. Where Leah's not even a plumber yet, and so far she's made probably in the neighborhood of $156,000. The student going to college, university now graduates. They have their diploma, they have their degree. So now they have to go looking for a job, and they're competing with everybody in their class that graduated from the same university, plus everyone else that graduated from every other university in the same thing. There's a ton of competition there. Again, money well spent. Pharmacy, engineering, doctor, teacher, this is the pathway you have to go. So student might say, you know what, I'm going to separate myself. I'm going to stay 1 more year of university, do a graduate study, get further certified, cut down on that competition. Leah in her final year earning her hours, probably made in excess of $54,000. So now a 4-year university degree plus a graduate year, on average $97,493, where Leah earned $210,000 becoming a plumber. That's the way apprenticeship block release works in Ontario. There are 144 skilled trades for students to choose from. Everyone, when I go to different meetings and present, I ask, name me some skilled trades, I get 5. Carpenter, plumber, electrician, hairstylist, and auto mechanic. There are 144, there's lots to choose from. My question to students is always, what do you want to try next? I'm never going to ask them what they want to be when they grow up, because they're all sick of hearing that. What do you want to try next? And then we start to focus in. We hammer on them that this is their opportunity to prepare to get into the skilled trades. Get your Ontario secondary school diploma. Keeps all your doors open for every pathway, apprenticeship, college, university. Take shop classes. We have what are called specialist high skills major and do co-op education, whether it's in skilled trades or not, to really solidify what your career path you think it is. So we have shops in every secondary school in Grey Bruce. So students have the opportunity to do that. We have what are called specialist high skills major. I'd be half an hour going through that one, but basically it's an opportunity for students to immerse themselves within a certain sector. And then we have co-op education, which is where I really get involved with students. This is their chance to go try it in industry, in business, out of the world, out of school, to see if this is really their pathway. And my favorite thing is when I get a student that goes out and tries it, comes back and goes, I'm never doing that again. Perfect. Now you know, go try something else. And we put them out in a different co-op. And apprenticeships are earned, not given. And this message is drilled into the students. You have to prepare while you're in high school. If a student went to a guidance counselor, said, I want to be a veterinarian, the first question that guidance counselor asks is, what's your science marks like? Oh, they're in the 60s. Then you're not going to become a veterinarian. There is no way the University of Guelph will accept you. It's the same in the skilled trades. If you have not done the work to earn your apprenticeship, you will not get an apprenticeship. And if you do, you won't be there for very long. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is huge in education right now. And in the skilled trades, this is where it happens, is in the skilled trades. Students have to understand physics, Ohm's law. If they become an electrician, they're the ones running the latest and greatest technology. Engineers and architects do fantastic drawings. It's skilled tradespeople that have to understand that engineering and actually go build it. And mathematics is so important in the skilled trades in all areas. I was the kid at the back of the room when they put the Pythagorean theorem up and said, when am I ever going to use this in my life? Well, that's how you square a wall. We don't stand around on the construction sites going, let's gather around, let's do the Pythagorean theorem. But students have to understand that, and they're knowing this now. So what is an apprenticeship? It is the oldest form of education there is. I know how to do something. I'm going to hire one of you. I'm going to pay you, and I'm going to teach you to do what I do. That's an apprenticeship in a nutshell. Yes, we send you off to trade school. Most trade schools are at colleges, and the Owen Sound campus of Georgian College has really stepped up. When I started 10 years ago, culinary and carpentry was all they had there. They now have millwright, boilermaker. They're starting hairstyling. They've got level 1 and level 2 automotive, and level 3 will start in September. That campus is really singing with apprentices now, and it's so great to see. You get into the apprenticeships, there's signing bonuses, there's completion bonuses. If you're in a red seal trade, there's bonuses for every year you complete of your skilled trade. They got rid of the tool loan program for students so they could buy their tools. They got a grant program. They'll actually give them money to buy the tools to get into the skilled trades. That's how badly we need these people. And when the student goes to trade school in block release, they don't apply to college. As I said, Georgian College is really set up. If a student says to me, I want to go to Georgian College for trade school, the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development will phone the college, buy their seat, and pay 90% of their tuition. Most students apprentices pay about $500. Plus they collect EI benefits while they're attending trade school. And if they need it, they also get accommodation allowance, childcare allowance, and transportation allowance so that they can attend their trade school classes every day. And there's no reason why a student can't go from the shop floor to the top floor. I've got a great video of a gentleman who started as an apprentice, became a boilermaker, got a scholarship, went back to university, became an engineer, rose up in management. And when Duncan Hawthorne retired, he was the president and CEO of, of Bruce Power. He started as an apprentice. So don't tell me you got to do one before the other. And we need more women in the skilled trades. And the numbers are phenomenal in Grey County. I'm really impressed with a new report I just read from the 4 County Labor Market Planning Board, that the number of women exploring the skilled trades here is phenomenal. We run a lot of events. So we partner with Sydenham campus and we ran our Skills Expo. We're going to be running young women's events next year. I was just quickly talking to Steve and Savannah about the opportunities that we're going to do there to try and get our students to come and learn about skilled trades in these partner facilities. We run Try the Trades nights in all of our high schools. For young women, we're going to start exploring other, I want to go after some academic kids that just have never darkened the door of a shop to see if they might like these careers. So we're going to look at different ways to do that. Because of this work, these are the numbers that I got most recently from the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development in Grey Bruce. Our school boards, we have, you can see the percentages there, I can't make them out, but we have more young women exploring skilled trades than the rest of the province by a significant margin. We do a lot of training, making sure students have the certifications they need when they get into it. We run elementary programs. We partner with Launchpad and take kids there. We do cardboard boat racing. We've got our SOS trailer. We take them to we take them to Georgian College to experience those opportunities. We do a lot of work with Indigenous students to give them the opportunity to explore these great careers. You can live here, work here, and train here. We have a level 1 cook program that is recognized as the top one in the province. Been running that for 9 years with Chef Bevan. If you guys ever met the guy, you'd know why. It's a phenomenal program. And last year we graduated, well, just this year, a few weeks ago, we graduated 40 more level 1 cooks into the workforce in Grey Bruce. Been running a level 1 carpentry program at Georgian College. Again, we just had a graduation. We graduated both cohorts, and we graduated 42 carpenters out into the Grey Bruce workforce. We just had region or Ontario Skills hasn't happened for 3 years, but we did it virtually this year at Owen Sound District Secondary School. Mr. Ferguson decided to do it. We had 14 home build team. First time ever, we had an all-female home build team. They won silver in the province, and their male team won gold. I would have liked to have seen it reversed, but that's the way it is. So we're celebrating that. I mean, and there were 9 competitors across the province in that category. So this was not a hand-me-down. We have an SOS trailer full of simulators to get into elementary schools to give students a chance to try that. And because of all this work, the work with our partners and everything, in 2019, 2020, on average, 15 to 20% of all grade 11 and 12 students in Grey Bruce are exploring skilled trades through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. Provincial average, about 4%. So there's my contact information, and I'm open to any questions anyone might have.
Whew, oh my gosh. Thank you for that. I feel like I've just come off a roller coaster ride. I just wonder, where were you when I was making that decision about law school? Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. And all I can start by saying is, wow, so impressive, Dave. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'll just share quickly that my son is a 4th year sheet metal worker working in the city and loves it. So I'm wondering, you're really addressing the stigma around trades for kids. And I think that's just incredible and so important, because we know how much we need the skilled trades in our workforce here. But my question is, how many of these students are you able to encourage to stay here in Grey Bruce? How do we keep them here and keep them from heading off to the big smoke?
So through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, actually, I wasn't exaggerating. The level 1 cooks, the level 1 carpenters that we graduated, they're 80. Well, there were 40 cooks, 40, so over 80 of them, and they're all registered locally. So these are students who have gone to school here, stayed here, and if we get them local apprenticeships, they'll stay here. And then with Georgian College doing what they're doing, they'll train here and they'll never leave. Now our goal is to get them married off so they never, but so we're doing that one. And again, that's just, those are the level 1 programs. We've also conservatively, I think we've registered 80 students right out of high school before they even graduate as apprentices, which is something that I'm able to do through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship. These are the students who are ready. They're waking up, showing up, ready to work and learn. So they're ready for apprenticeships. There's others that sort of think they want to be there, but those are the ones that we encourage to go off to college and really solidify it, or get a job, do those types of things and find their pathway. But I see this as a very good youth apprenticeship tool or youth retention tool, in the fact that as our employers take on these apprentices will stay here. And instead of losing them to the city colleges where they had to go for trade school, your local college has stepped up and said, we'll train you right here, which really goes to that youth retention piece that you're speaking about. So I see it all working hand in hand.
Thank you. Deputy Warden McQueen, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden, and thanks, Dave, for your enthusiastic presentation. I have 2 sons that are currently in the trades, and my oldest is just finished his electrical, which he'll be writing, I think, in a few weeks, and then he's going to work on his master's. The question I have for you is, well, one other comment is, you know, they went through the co-op through the high school, which both of them, it just allowed them to accelerate into and sort of fine tune where they wanted to go with that. But you had the chart of money earned versus money that was spent. But do you even go further to the potential of once you're licensed, or you like for electrician, you can do your master's, and what that potential in the sense of you have your own business, you have workers under you. I know we have an area that is, well, the province itself is in shortage, even in our Grey Bruce areas is even a shortage. But do you even talk about that? 'Cause, I mean, even that potential even has even greater opportunities of where they want to take their trade once they are licensed and expand from that. So I just wonder if you have any comments to that.
Absolutely. So what you saw was a 5-minute version of what I talk to students about. That usually takes me about 50 minutes to do during a class. And that's exactly what we talk about. It's removing that stigma that somehow this is a lower job and you're not as good as all the other students that are going off to university and getting their acceptance. We celebrate them getting their apprenticeships. They get certificates from me when they walk across the stage in their graduations and so forth. And we talk about that earning potential, not just in big companies or in trade unions, but across the board. The earning potential for students here is phenomenal. One of the things I talk to students about, particularly in communities that have marinas, say go down and look at the names on the boats. More often than not, I don't know what it is with skilled tradespeople, they love boats. So it's all electricians and carpenters and construction people and everything like this. It used to be doctors and lawyers, but I don't know if Warden Hicks has a boat or not, but I see skilled tradespeople on them all the time. So I said, that income level is there. Go explore it for yourself.
And just a further comment, Mr. Warden.
Go right ahead.
What I've seen also, and we know we see the high price of, the high price of housing, and that what I've seen more recently is with my son's friends and other trades persons that they help each other out, building a house or doing things. They get that networking that, and from the affordability, the high cost, but helping each other out, it seems to be a very camaraderie type. They learn and it's a network in itself. And I know my neighbor, he's a licensed electrician, but basically all the other trades come out and helped him, and then he does the same back when they build a house. And so from an affordability side, on the building side of trades, I've seen that very, very much of a positive thing. And I don't know if you have any comments on that, but I see a lot of tradespersons, young tradespersons, building a house, owning a house, expanding. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts, but I look at that, and maybe from Savannah's point too, is that is another angle of affordability and the ability to have a home.
And I completely agree with you. And I see that all the time. I think we raise our children very well in Grey Bruce. And partnering is a huge thing of what we do in so many different areas, whether it's economic development, politics, whatever it is. And I see that in the skilled trades as well. And the affordability is those students can afford. I mean, I'm thrilled when I had a story I tell quite a bit because it happened about 7 years ago. I had a young man tell me that he was sick and tired of going to the Caribbean. Going, what are you talking about? I had registered him as an apprentice, and he was working in a smelter project in Newfoundland, and they were helicoptering him in. He'd be in there for a month. He'd get a huge check, and him and all his buddies would go to the Caribbean, and he was tired of going there now. Tough life there, buddy. So, I see these students, getting their vehicles of their dream, building homes, setting up lives here, and they're going to be in integral parts of our communities. They already are, and I see the potential. The students that I deal with, the passion, once they find that skilled trade that's going to take them where they want to go next, and then it leads to entrepreneurship, it leads to management, it leads to so many other areas that these students are getting into. And I've been around long enough that I'm seeing students on those pathways and doing those different things, going back to university, becoming engineers because they're sick and tired of fixing mistakes. So it's really interesting when you get to talk to them and see them as they're 10 years into their careers.
And a big shout out to Georgian College too, because Georgian College is really stepping up to plate. Thanks, Mr. Warden, and thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Next is Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and I apologize for the delay in the mute button there. Dave, it's really nice to see you. It's been a number of years. And I do applaud your enthusiasm and all your hard work in promoting opportunities for students to take on these programs and also educate students so that they understand that there is potential for sustainable employment here. So that's really well done. The question that I have resonated with one of your comments, and that was when a student would approach you and perhaps by way of example, is interested in being a veterinarian, doesn't have the grades. So maybe there's a different route to take for an apprenticeship. At what point do you discuss with students their interest for a potential career? And if their grades are not up to what is the criteria for acceptance into a program, how is that facilitated or improved upon as by way of a goal for the student to improve? And also, is there opportunity to suggest perhaps within animal science, there are a whole range of different career opportunities? Your comments would be really greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. So I use that as an example, and those are exactly the conversations we have with students. So I just yesterday actually was on a call with a guidance counselor who was supposed to be on summer holidays and one of her students because they're getting started into an apprenticeship and they needed guidance. So all of the guidance people phone me when it comes to the skilled trades. As far as getting students to sort of identify their career paths in those discussions, for me, those usually start in grade 10. So every student in the province of Ontario, the only course they have to take is careers. It's the only mandatory course for every student. So I get into as many of the careers classes as I'm able to, and we start to talk about these things. And I can see the students as I start to do my presentation, the ones that are going, yeah, okay, this isn't for me, but the ones that are, and then we have those conversations. And then the next step is to talk to the student about, okay, what are your goals? And we start, especially when I get the ones that say, I can't do math. And ag kids are my favorite one for that one because they're such easy targets. Kind of go, really, what's it going to cost you to plant that field? And they go, well, how did you figure that out? Well, I knew the area. I knew I needed this much spray. I needed this much seed. So they can clearly do the math. It just needs to apply for them. So it's all of those conversations happening all the time in our schools with our guidance people, with our student success people, with our co-op teachers. And as students start to narrow in, that's when I get more involved, particularly on the apprenticeship side. On the animal sciences side, if that student going, okay, you have a choice to make. You retake these programs and you start to get those marks up so you can get in, or let's look at other opportunities that may not be veterinary, but vet tech, all these other specialty areas. And that's what our guidance people are really skilled at doing.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Soever.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Dave, for your excellent presentation. And certainly apprenticeship is a great way to go. My father was a carpenter, and currently my nephew is in the carpenter's apprenticeship program down in Toronto. And certainly these skills are in very, very high demand here. People seem to have less skills these days. I mean, the one useful thing I found on social media is there's a lot of people looking for plumbers, electricians, and somebody to fix a deck and that kind of thing. So I think young people should be encouraged to go into that field. And certainly, it does give you a great start on life. As you pointed out, the costs are tremendous. I had a chance to spend an evening with some young doctors, residents that are working in the area the other week. And, they talk about their debt, and they talk about the lack of their biggest concern about coming to this area is housing. So and I think as Mayor McQueen pointed out, that I think having a skill set that allows you to do a lot of your own work does give you a leg up there as well. I know as a kid, I spent many weekends with my father when he was helping people build cottages. So I think, it is a great field to get into. And but I think all young people these days struggle with the affordability of housing. So I think Mayor McQueen's comments are very appropriate, is that if you have a skill set and you have friends in the trades, it is a huge saving as you build or repair a home. And, I think, we as a council, we need to focus on that attainable housing issue, not only for people in the trades, but even the doctors. They just can't see it. They have huge debts, as you pointed out. And, people need a range of housing types so that there are starter homes as well. And, I think our trades can help provide that. Thank you.
Just a quick comment on that. And you hit on another thing that, students' anxiety around those costs are real. And that's what our mental health lead said to me, is kids need to hear about apprenticeship, because as I said, this is just the step. There are students who will become plumbers, and they'll become plumbers and stay that the rest of their lives because they love it. And there are others that will go and become carpenters and then become managers and then start companies and then be driving around and building subdivisions and be in front of council saying, okay, we want to do 20 more. That's where all this starts. But this is a way for them to say, here's a way I can get a credential and certified while I'm getting paid. And then that's what I say to them. When you get the money and you get it and you go, you know what, you're sick and tired of fixing other people's mistakes, then go to university and become an engineer and start doing that. And I'm seeing students do it. So it's always a way for on a mental health perspective and a cost perspective. This is a way to earn while you learn, get a very valuable credential, learn some great skills, and then build from there what your life and your career is going to be. So thank you. I appreciate those comments.
Madam CAO.
Thanks so much, Dave. We are so blessed to have you here. You've been doing this work for a long, long time, and I think we're all so very grateful for all of your energy and all of your efforts. One question that I have is, what about the employer side of this? One of the challenges, in my understanding, to the world of apprenticeship was that these job sites had a reputation sometimes of being very tough places. Is there a change there? And as you know, when you talk about wanting to attract women to the skilled trades, have there been efforts made or changes that you've seen happen that make these much more comfortable and safe places for everyone to be?
Absolutely. I've seen massive changes coming. There are still people out there. I had a young welder, I'm going back probably 9 years, that was told a woman will never work in this company. She's now working for Bruce Power as a welding instructor. She's had a great career, and she said, to heck with you. That was one person. As far as what I see is, I'd love to grab the report. 28% of either apprentices in Grey County or female skilled tradespeople are female in Grey County. So those changes are happening, and it's a workforce issue. If you don't want women on your job site, you're not going to find anybody. My classes, my level 1 carpenters, I think 1/3 of them were young women. My cook program, 1/3 of them were young women. We ran a millwright program. I think almost half of them were young women. So the young ladies are now saying these are great careers. They're recognizing it's not the traditional hairstylist, that kind of stuff. They can do this work. We bring in, we get them to introduce. I cannot sit there at a young women's forum and answer their questions. I need other women tradespeople. So they're the ones that are inspiring them. And it's really cool to see, and job sites are changing because they're recognizing if I don't, I'm not going to get the skilled labor that I need. And young women are phenomenal skilled tradespeople. The attention to detail that they bring, guys are, bash it till you break it. And that's just the way we are. Young women are very, very detail oriented stuff. We all get to the same place. We all become masters at some point. We just get there differently. So it's a beautiful thing to see. And yes, I do see it changing in the workforce for that.
Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Mr. Baird, for your presentation. I think you could give Bill Walker a real run and shorten the presentation and encompass a lot of information. The one thing you didn't, well, we've kind of touched on it here, but agriculture, you're not really saying much about it. And I'm seeing we're getting larger and larger farms, and there's a real shortness of labor out there for these operations. I'm wondering, is that something you're looking at, trying to motivate, or?
I got that. Agriculture is not within my portfolio. There are skilled trades that are for agriculture. So my nephew is actually a dairy herds person. So he did that one, agricultural technicians. So I just registered one at, I've registered several, probably 6 this year, between Roberts Farm Equipment and some of the other dealers and John Deere. So those ones feed into agriculture, and a lot of skilled trades are electricians that do the milk houses, that kind of stuff. But as far as agriculture as a career, no, that's not something that I focus on. But we have a great specialist high skills major in agriculture run at Owen Sound District Secondary School. And Mr. Watson runs that program. And then I was just down, they go down to the barn in Chesley for their 2nd semester. And I think agriculture is being well served by that one. Would we like to make it 10 times bigger? Absolutely. But again, I think it is being represented at schools as viable career paths for students.
Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Dave, thanks very much. Very encouraging, the whole presentation. I think in your presentation, you mentioned there's only 4% provincially that are going down the trades, and in Blue Water, it's 11%. Can you tell us what we're doing differently? Probably it's a tribute to the work you're doing, but what's happening in Grey and Bruce that's different than the rest of the province? And if we are wanting to get that 4% up, how would we encourage other regions to do what Blue Water is doing? And how do we go to the next step to get that 11%, maybe up to 20%?
So the numbers that I put up there, we hover around, so this is all grade 11 and 12 students in all of our high schools in Grey Bruce. So we've got 11 high schools total. Of all the grade 11 and 12 students, 15 to 20% on any given year are exploring skilled trades through my program. I don't take credit for any of that. Is all partnership. You know, your economic development people help me connect. We talk to employers. Steve and I have connected so many times on industry tours, getting students onto different sites and so forth. And I think the biggest difference is the focus on it. That is a role that I have. I only do the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. A lot of my colleagues across the province are in multiple roles. They're lead this, they're tech lead, they're this and this, and then they do OEP, where I'm able to focus on it here. And I think that's been the biggest one, because I've been able to get right into the schools. So I was bracing for it, because I usually get that, you know, my sister's aunt's daughter's friend went to the guidance counselor, said, oh, you're too smart to go in the trades, you have to go to university. That won't happen here. Our guidance people, I'm in talking with them, they understand apprenticeship. When they don't have an answer, they know who to call. Same with student success, same with skills. And there's students from all across. So I think that's the biggest difference, is the focus on it and our partnerships with community partners. The industry is stepping up. I'm getting calls daily. And the biggest thing that I want, what I'm looking for, is co-op opportunities for our students. There are students who are ready. And it's amazing to me the number of times, and it's happened many times this year already, where I just got this kid on co-op since February. You know what? I'm taking the summer off and giving him the keys, because he's doing a better job running this place than I am. So there are students that are like that. There are others that are still exploring, and that's their whole goal. So the more kids we can get on a co-op in skilled trades or any other, I think is where we're winning the day. I really do think that. And co-op is such a big piece of it, because it gives students a chance. It's academically, you can look at it and say, yeah, this is what I want to do. You get into industry, I'll go back to veterinarian. It's not all kittens and puppies. There's other stuff you need to know about when you get into that career that you better be aware of. And students come out and go, I'm never doing that again. Perfect. What do you want to try next? And that's the pathway we take them on. I hope that answered your question.
Councillor Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Mr. Barrett, for the excellent presentation. You've focused a lot on students in high school going into the apprenticeships. What about I'm thinking of one person who finished high school thinking she was going to go one route and decided that wasn't for her and now is looking at an apprentice. How difficult is it for a mature student such as this to get into the apprenticeship program going forward? Thank you.
The oldest apprentice in Grey Bruce in 2017 was 63 years old. It's very easy for this person to get into it. And if they're under the age of 29, I get a lot of phone calls like this. I actually had a 24-year-old just phone me. Dunn University said, you know what, I did an apprentice or a co-op placement as a carpenter, and now that's what I want to do. And I'll help them. So through Employment Ontario, there are great resources to help people under the age of 30 get into the workforce. And in Grey Bruce, they're really helping them focus on getting them into apprenticeships. So the opportunities are there. It's just a matter of the connection. So if this person wants to reach out, they're more than welcome to shoot me an email, give me a call, and I'll guide them as to who they need to connect with to make that happen. Because I don't care if they're in high school or if they're 63 years old. You want into the trades, I'll help. Whatever you need. We're looking for skilled tradespeople. We need them.
Thank you. So what you're saying is that there's still hope for me. Sorry, you're gonna have to put.
The number of retiring tech teachers and people in the skilled trades. And it's fun to watch them because they're becoming handy persons. So a lot of my brother-in-law is one of the worst. He builds beautiful homes and everything like this. It's the finishing it off that he's horrible at. So he hires, these retired guys, they go in and do the final pieces of trim and the little bit of caulking that got missed and that kind of stuff, and everything's perfect after that. And a friend of mine, he just works for his son now. His son took over the company and he builds decks on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and that pays for all his golf the rest of the time. So there's opportunities out there.
Okay, Savannah.
I just wanted to thank Dave so much for his presentation and all the work that he's doing in this community. I think we are so very fortunate to have him doing this role and being so dedicated and passionate about the students that we have here and the employers we have here, and so willing to partner at kind of any moment. Dave has been with us sitting around the table for everything that happened with Sydenham, for all of the apprenticeship programs that happened at Georgian. Those didn't just happen overnight. That was a lot of work and a lot of time, and trying to think of every angle and every pathway to make sure that we were covering all of our bases. And I just want to really acknowledge that Dave was a huge piece of why we are where we are today. And I think a big piece of where we're going tomorrow, and he never takes credit for it. So I want to make sure that we give him some credit because I think we are so lucky, and his results are incredible. You can see that we are leading the province in Grey and Bruce, and that is very much because of his approach and how open and willing he is to help and to listen and to find a way forward. And I think you never come at it with any judgment. You just want to make sure that at the end of the day, he's getting the work done and he's helping students find their future. So I get very overwhelmed when Dave speaks and when I see what he's doing. I know, sorry, we're very teary, but we really can't do this alone. And I don't think we would be where we are today without Dave. So I just want to say thank you, and maybe we can give him a huge round of applause.
Dave, don't leave just yet. Speaking of the construction trades, Councillor Burley has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Dave, great presentation. I just wanted to give you a full story quickly. I am a licensed carpenter, very proud of it. I served my apprenticeship in the area with a contractor, served my schooling in Nassau Street in Toronto. Great place, a lot of fun. Anyway, I ran a construction business for over 40 years. I had many apprentices, including female. I enjoyed the time with them. Very smart young people, and I even had some senior ones. For some reason either, I decided to retire a few years ago. I miss it. It's something born and bred in you. And I guess I got real smart, went into politics, but anyway, it's so good to see the apprentices to be able to go to a job site to actually see what the real world's about. That's so extremely important in what you do. And it's something we don't want to miss. Just make sure they get out there to see the actual job site and see what's going on. But anyway, I'm proud to be a licensed carpenter and enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And it is fun to watch students get on construction sites because again, carpenter, plumber, electrician, hairstylist, auto mechanic is all they think. And then they see the heavy equipment people and go, that looks pretty cool. And then they see these ones and all of a sudden cement people come in and they're going, that looks pretty cool. And all of a sudden their minds open up to the possibilities in apprenticeship. That's why I love getting them into subdivisions and large construction sites so they can see all of these trades and the opportunities that are available to them locally. It's phenomenal. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave. I can breathe now. It's like. Okay, council, we've been sitting quite some time. Is Linda here? Linda is our other attending virtually. I wonder, Gabby, can I call you Gabby? Would it be okay if we took, say, a 15-minute break? Would you be okay with that?
Absolutely. Totally understand. Totally. No problem.
That would be great. I'm going to suggest that we come back at 11:48. 11:48 sharp. We're going to take a break. Rob, you can let me know when we're good to go. Excellent, thank you. So we are back from our break. And we're going to turn next to Linda, who will introduce our next delegate. Gabby, is it Kalapos or Kalapos?
Kalapos, you got it right. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Linda?
Thank you. So it's my pleasure to introduce Gabby Kalapos. She is the Executive Director of the Clean Air Partnership, which is the largest municipal peer-to-peer climate action and clean air network in Canada and one of the oldest. Gabby has been working with local municipalities for the last 20 years to support clean air and climate action. You may have heard her last year on the Municipal World podcast, talking about some of the great work that she does. And really, she's just a fantastic resource. So she's going to speak to you about the support that the Clean Air Council offers member municipalities, which is a recommendation that's come forward for Grey County to join. So I'll hand it over to Gabby.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Linda. I really appreciate that. And thank you very much, Warden Hicks, council members, and all staff for allowing me time on your busy agenda to speak to the value proposition associated with the Clean Air Council. I'm just going to share my screen, if that's okay, just to highlight the presentation, bring that up. Sorry, give me one sec here. And perfect. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Dave is a little bit of a hard act to follow, and it's really exciting to see all that fantastic apprenticeship work taking place in Grey County. I know for certainly as we've been advancing the home energy efficiency retrofit programs, the growth, the job creation growth associated with their energy efficiency opportunity that is ahead of us, and in ways to make homes more energy efficient, reduce energy cost burden, reduce vulnerability to energy costs. The sheer amount of growth that we need to have in our trades to be able to meet that opportunity is quite overwhelming, but it's really exciting to see all this work in the apprentices taking place. So as part of today, I just wanted to share a bit about the Clean Air Council, how it does its work, how we achieve the outcomes that we aim to be, how the Clean Air Council membership base decides what is going to be the priorities of the Clean Air Council moving forward, and then just a description of how we work together to advance that goal. So a little bit about the Clean Air Partnership. We're a charitable environmental organization. We work with municipalities, and while municipalities are one of our key target audiences, we work with municipalities and their various partners because we realize that municipalities can't advance the complex climate work that needs to take place alone. This needs to be done with an all hands on deck and all stakeholders contributing to the collective effort. So, but I'll give you a little bit of background in terms of how we do this work. Really, it comes down to as each municipality undertakes their clean air climate change action, we get them to share what they've done with all the other municipalities. And then we ask, okay, if one of you can do this work, what would stop all of you from advancing this work? And then based on the collective brain power, we identify the barriers, we identify the research questions, we pool resources to undertake this work collectively in order to reduce the financial and human resources burden on each individual municipalities, and in addition to get some efficiency of scale and collective work happening. So we've been around since, as Linda was mentioning, we've been around since 2000. The Clean Air Council is the largest peer-to-peer municipal climate network in Canada. We have 35 Ontario municipal members at this point in time, representing over 9 million people in Ontario. There's a lot of critical mass that is being undertaken, a lot of lessons learned that can generate for the network as a whole. How we go about advancing this work is we undertake a lot of collective workshops. Webinars really serve to share the experiences of individual municipalities as they're advancing their actions. What are their lessons learned? What would they be doing differently if they know what they know now? And then they share that with all of the municipal members. There's workshops where we brainstorm together, both virtually and in person, identifying what are the key questions, brainstorming approaches for how we're going to address those issues that we undertake, and then pooling resources across the network. All of this kind of compiles into documentation reports that document the learnings and state of knowledge as it exists at that moment in time, in order for that when municipalities get to the stage when they're ready for implementation, those lessons learned are all available to them to foster their movement and progress as well. And then we share newsletters as well in terms of keeping everybody up to date on all the Clean Air Council work taking place and learnings thus far. The Clean Air Council is governed by the declaration. It's an intergovernmental declaration on clean air and climate change. And really what that means is that the membership of the municipal membership decides what is going to be the priorities for the coming council term. Each of the declarations have a time frame of the council term. So we're coming to the end of our present declaration, and we're going to be moving into a new declaration that would go from 2023 to 2027. It highlights at the start of every council term, we put out a menu of different clean air and climate change actions that we heard from municipalities are a priority for them. And then based on they identify what is going to be a high, medium, and low priority for them moving forward. And then based on where we have enough critical mass on high priority issues, those are the actions that get slated for collective input. It doesn't mean that we ignore the medium and lower kind of priorities. It just means that we focus in on the high priorities across a critical mass of municipalities. So some of the key, just to give you a little bit of insight in terms of what are the priorities, certainly corporate climate action, getting the municipal house in order is critical for a lot of municipalities. It involves kind of moving their corporate energy plans to net zero emission plans, looking at how they going to achieve that within their own facilities, sustainable fleet strategies, sharing collective learnings across sustainable fleet managers, moving into sustainable procurement policies. Those are some of the 3 top areas with regards to corporate climate action. There's a lot of interest on municipalities. How are we going to finance these carbon actions? We know that we can't do it on the property tax base. We have to find innovative financial mechanisms, whether that be local improvement charges, whether that be revolving funds, whether that be pooling efforts together to access funding from the federal government. All of those different strategies for how we actually are going to finance and fund these climate actions that we need to do. Certainly from reducing building emissions, we know that there's where the Ontario Building Code is with regards to energy use and where we need to be in terms of net zero emission buildings. We know that all buildings that are being built at present that don't achieve the net zero emission target or close to it at this point in time will need to be retrofitted within 10 to 15 to 20 years time period. And we know it's going to cost a lot more to do that retrofit than if it had been built from the initial stages. So that's one of the areas through green development standards and the new build sector, as well as working with retrofit program at the community level, advancing retrofits within the existing buildings sector as well. Certainly, climate accountability is really, really key and important to a lot of municipalities. And how is climate change being brought into overall decision making, not just relegating it to the climate change mitigation or adaptation plan, but throughout municipal decision making. So those are some of the priorities. We have we track all of our meetings, we track all of our learnings thus far, because we realize that not all municipalities will be implementing all the actions at the same time. There is going to be differences in timing across municipalities. We don't want that information lost to the municipal network. Another example of how we're advancing this work collectively across the municipal network. There's a corporate energy manager. So corporate energy managers all work together, share kind of learnings, ask each other questions, have workshops together to ensure the learnings across that network. We also have a sustainable fleets managers network who are advancing the sustainable green fleet strategies for the municipalities. Looking at green infrastructure, how are we going to address in terms of natural capital assessments, low impact development initiatives, looking at how you incorporate green infrastructure into both the municipal properties and right of way, as well as within the private sector as well in terms of new developments, as well as retrofits. As I was mentioning, the green development standards really speaks to the role municipalities are playing to drive and accelerate the movement towards net zero emission buildings as quickly as possible. Advancing building retrofits collaboration, we support that kind of sharing across municipal networks, and a lot of our active transportation and sustainable transportation community practice and learnings are all available as well. So I did want to kind of share all of those different types of initiatives that are taking place. We also do a lot of work across the municipal network on advocacy. What is it that municipalities need from the provincial government, from the federal government, in order to enable them to be the climate champions that we know they can and need to be to move forward on our climate change commitments? And again, it's about bringing all the collective brain power together to identify and create consensus across the municipal network on those needs to higher levels of government. Did want to kind of just share, this is a contact information for all of us, and I would be love to be able to kind of answer any questions that folks have, and we really look forward on fingers crossed that Grey County will be joining us in the Clean Air Council so that we can bring the collective learnings all together. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gabby. And I would say an equally passionate presentation to Dave's. And I just, I'm impressed how the environmental lingo just flows off your tongue. It's a talent you have.
It's one of those like acronyms of all areas have their acronyms that, yeah, I'm sorry for the acronyms.
No, you're very good at what you do and you're passionate. We loved it. Council, are there any questions? Councillor Gamble.
Yes, thank you, Gabby, for your presentation. Council's going to be sick of me harping on agriculture today, but the last while, agriculture is taking a huge blunt. We know that the carbon tax is going to cost the average family farm $48,000 a year loss, and that's not sustainable. I mean, it's just not going to. So something has to change. The feeling out there among the agriculture community is that there wasn't enough research done on some of the figures that they have aren't just correct. And they're really looking at seeing that these figures are corrected and made really to realistic figures. And I don't know how much involvement you have in that, but that's my concern.
The figures with regards to the carbon price at present and the increases coming over time and the impacts on the agricultural sector related to the carbon pricing?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that question. There's no doubt about it. The carbon price is not supposed to be serving as a revenue generation tool. It's serving as a way to fix a failure in the market system where we don't cost out the costs of emissions and the impacts from our emissions. So the real purpose of a carbon tax is to equalize the playing field and build a more supportive market environment for moving away from fossil fuel use and reducing emissions over the long term. So I do believe that that's the goal on this one. And then there are federal programs helping the agricultural sector identify those carbon reduction opportunities that they can put into place to reduce their vulnerability to carbon price increases over time. So I think that there is a transitional stage that every sector is going to be encountering as we fix the market failure of not costing out our carbon emissions and the impacts that's having on our communities. So I do see that as one of the areas we are doing. I will admit that in the past, the Clean Air Partnership hasn't focused on the agricultural sector. That is something that's definitely much more towards the federal government's jurisdictions and than it has been on municipal jurisdiction. However, there are a lot of municipalities that are wanting to work with their agricultural sector to identify programs and actions that they can undertake to reduce the fossil fuel use within their agricultural sector, not only to reduce the emissions, but also to reduce their agricultural sector's vulnerability to carbon price and energy price increases over time. So I didn't answer your question in terms of what is that we're going to do. But there is that element of the municipalities working together to identify what levers does a municipality have to work with their agricultural community to reduce their energy use and vulnerability to carbon price increasing.
Mr. Warden, if I could. When you look at agriculture, like a lot of elements in society don't realize that the progress that agriculture is at. They're a lot further on than a lot of things or different organizations think they are. And, you know, I don't think there's been the talk with these groups, and because of it, like, I know because I'm involved in it, I see it all the time. These farmers, they're quite apt. They believe there's climate control has to happen, but it has to happen because if you do it too fast, at $48,000 a family per year, they're going to be gone. And what are you going to eat? Where's the food going to come from? I mean, there's a lot of things that has to happen, and it's being missed. I'm just bringing it to your attention. Thank you.
Thanks.
Deputy Warden McQueen.
Yeah, just thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you very much for your presentation. Just to follow up with the agricultural side that Councillor Gamble has raised, I was just made aware of a bit of a pushback. I don't know if it's pushback or what's happening in Europe right now, specifically Holland and other European countries with regards to the agricultural side. And I must admit, I don't know much about what's going on there, other than I was made aware that there is a bit of a pushback on their high targets of climate change. And again, it's the, maybe just one follow-up comment with Councillor Gamble as well is technology in a sense, and I think we see this, maybe from our large vehicles, even at our county or municipal, is the technology isn't there yet that we're seeing that allows, because with agriculture, there's a huge investment in it's a huge investment, and you gamble on the weather to make sure you get a commodity or whatever you're in to come back, and obviously rising temperatures and that do have an effect on agriculture itself as well. So there's just, as Councillor Gamble says, I think there needs to be maybe a larger conversation of how to help move that part along than setting targets and expecting the industry itself, other than there has to be technology that comes along. I mean, a lot of people say that all the 300 to 400 horsepower tractors maybe just won't cut it as a battery operated. And is there other technologies that are coming along that will serve that purpose? But and a lot of farms, sometimes those agricultural investments last you over 20-25 years, depending on what's going to happen to all that investment and carrying on to generations and stuff. So not to point fingers at it, it's just in the sense that, as Councillor Gamble said, it's to be made aware of the struggles that agriculture may see as we move along this track. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I will agree. This is going to be a rocky road as we advance towards our climate commitments that we have unfortunately postponed for a long period of time. So I definitely see that there are going to be some rocky roads in terms of the challenges that we face on how do we decarbonize our energy systems, which is extremely complicated and extremely reliant on fossil fuels at present. And there are a lot of movements, like you'll see a lot of, we stagnated for a lot of time on the sustainable fleet strategy because there wasn't a lot of additional opportunities for municipalities to kind of fuel switch or decarbonize their fleets. There was a lot of opportunities with right sizing, with regards to making sure that they are maintenance issues, driver training that we advanced, but with regards to electric vehicles and that were available, that was limited. There's certainly a lot more opportunities on the passenger vehicle front with regards to electric vehicles, not so much just as yet on the higher, on the bigger equipment. We are still kind of, the market is still evolving in terms of what is the market for non-fossil fuel based heavy equipment going to look like. Is it going to be a hydrogen one? Is it going to be an electric one? We don't yet know the answers for that one because the market is still evolving on that. However, one of the things I did want to kind of highlight is that the goal for collective learning on this is absolutely critical. We don't have the time to make mistakes over and over again, nor do we have the resources to doing it. So sharing those learnings on experiences, on practicalities of how this equipment functions, both on the short term and the longer term across the municipal network, is actually really critical. I would love to see a lot more of this kind of collective learning taking place across the agricultural sector as well. And we are kind of exploring with a number of the municipalities who want to who have significant agricultural sectors within their community on identifying what can a municipality do to support their agricultural sector to decarbonize and to share their experiences across the agricultural sector, because we don't want just as we don't want municipalities making the same mistakes over and over, we don't want the agricultural sector making the same mistakes over and over again, and want to try and do this as efficiently and painlessly as possible. There also are going to be huge opportunities for the agricultural sector on biofuels. There's huge opportunities that I see coming, especially from the agricultural sector. Just as much as as we're all part of the problem, we're all part of the solution. And I see huge opportunities with biofuels, with regenerative agriculture, and for sharing across that network. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And I would say the key word that I've been hearing when talking about the intersection between agriculture and the environment is opportunity. Tremendous opportunity there. So Gabby, thank you very much for your presentation, and I'm assuming you're going to stick around for the next item on the agenda, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Warden Hicks and Met Council, for allowing me the time to chat with you about the Clean Air Council today. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. Next on deck is Linda. We're going to be dealing with item 7A, the Climate Change Task Force minutes dated June 28, 2022. I need a mover to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor Carlton. Linda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. So Gabby has done most of my work for me by telling you all about the Clean Air Council, but the item for discussion is the adoption of the Climate Change Task Force's minutes. One of the recommendations of the Climate Change Task Force is that Grey County should become a member of the Clean Air Council. The resources that Gabby so well articulated for us will be available both to Grey County staff, but also to all local municipality staff. So the membership contributions for the Clean Air Council are prorated by population size. And we have confirmed with the Clean Air Council that were Grey County to become a member, it would also provide access for all our local municipal staff. I think I just can't stress enough how useful it is to have those built-in networks as a staff person with other staff, and also to know that the Clean Air Council staff, Gabby and her colleagues, are really just an email away. They're not kind of hands-off administrators where you pay your fees and that's kind of the end of it. As a staff person, you have a question, for example, looking at regenerative agriculture, any staff member would be able to reach out to the Clean Air Council staff and say, what other jurisdictions are looking at this? Is there somebody already piloting decarbonization of fleets? Who would you recommend we talk to? And they'll kind of catalyze that introduction. We are able to pay the membership dues of approximately $1,800 through the existing 2022 budget, and future membership dues would be considered through the annual budget process. So that was the first recommendation coming out of the Climate Change Task Force minutes, which is to join the Clean Air Council. Should I also speak to the second set of recommendations? So the other item that was dealt with at the last Climate Change Task Force meeting is, in my mind, a really fantastic partnership that we have established with the Neighborhoods North organization. So the recommendation of the Climate Change Task Force is to go forward with a proposal to pilot a nature-based climate solutions, which is a community nature-based climate solutions, which is a long way of saying that with the support of Neighborhoods North, which is a subgroup of the Owen Sound Field Naturalists, we're going to be inviting residents to come to the county property this fall and help us plant a number of trees and establish a number of pollinator gardens. These actions would align with a number of priorities identified in the Going Green and Gray plan that was adopted in April. Action 1, which is to enhance our nature-based afforestation and nature-based solutions, and also action number 19, which recommends community engagement. So it's important what we do, but it's equally important that we involve as many stakeholders and residents as possible so they also become part of the solution. The idea being that we would start by naturalizing parts of this site here at the Owen Sound Administration, Grey County Administration building, but this would be a pilot, and we would be able over the next few years to look at potentially also naturalizing some of our other Grey County owned properties. And the kind of benefits we would see from these proposed plantings include shading on the sidewalk coming up to the building for our clients who perhaps are walking, which I would always support, up to the building. So, you know, they're not going to be exposed to that beating sun if they're coming up the side. And also with some of the shade plantings being proposed adjacent to the building, we do know that by modifying the microclimate, you actually see reductions in utility bills, either from sort of windbreaking or from shading, which reduces the cooling demand in the summer. The Climate Change Task Force recommended going forward with this planting, which can also be absorbed in the 2022 budget. And similarly, if we were to go forward with the pilot beyond this year, we would bring it forward through subsequent budget processes.
Great, thank you very much, Linda. I have to tell you, well, it's great that we're about to join the Clean Air Council. I'm maybe presuming how we're going to vote. I apologize. But I'm really excited as well about the planting plan. I wish that the rest of council could see the graphics that that were presented at the Climate Change Task Force, because it was very impressive when you see it that way. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Any questions from council? Councillor Body.
Thank you very much. Can I confirm, was that $1,800? Yeah, no, you're nodding. She's nodding yes, just so so that works out to being about 2 cents per resident in Grey County. It sounds like a pretty good deal. I'm just looking at their website, and there's approximately 33 municipalities that are involved, and about a third of them are regional or counties. So, you know, it seems to me that we're, you know, in a good group, and this really makes sense at 2 cents per person. With regard to the tree planting organization, they've been involved around Owen Sound and been great to work with, and they do great stuff and bring in lots of volunteers, and it's a win-win-win. And yeah, they're great to work with. Thanks.
Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And perhaps contrary to my colleague, 2 cents a resident is minimal, of course, but I would suggest that we have a climate change plan here in Grey Bruce or Grey County. Why would we not take the 2 cents per resident and plant more trees to accomplish the plan we already have in place, rather than spend $1,800 to buy another membership in an organization that I'm a little dubious about how much concrete benefit this organization will get for that $1,800, as opposed to another 3-4 trees, whatever. That's my concern. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I don't want to speak on behalf of both Linda and Randy, who are more closely involved with the actual individual initiatives of the Clean Air Partnership. But I would say at a strategic level, it is critically important for us to have those relationships and have the benefit of the work that's happening at the Clean Air Partnership. These are the people that are plugged in to the strategies that are being developed, the research that's happening in all sorts of different jurisdictions, projects that are either under development that we might want to join onto, projects that have been completed and either worked extremely well or not so much, which would then give us the benefit of either going down a good road quickly or avoiding a bad road entirely. I think there's a tremendous amount of value for us to be part of something like this. It's not dissimilar to what happens when you're part of an NAMO task force or something that happens at OGRA, all of the different organizations that we join on. And this is just such a quickly moving area. It's challenging, but I'll let Linda and Randy take it.
Through you, Gordon. I think everything Kim said echoes strongly how I feel like there's just a lot of value in having those network connections. Concretely, the Clean Air Partnership does also support joint applications for federal funding. Sometimes it takes a surprising amount of resources to access grant or financing resources from other orders of government. And so having an organization like the Clean Air Council or Clean Air Partnership, who both has experience with those applications and can work in a collaborative way, I think is a really concrete aspect of value. Dufferin County participated in a joint funding application that was successful last year around a home energy retrofit program design. And there's a possibility or an intent that Grey County might participate in a similar project or application in the future.
Linda was going to indicate what I was going to indicate is that there's, and Kim mentioned this, that there's going to be opportunities for partnership through the Clean Air Partnership that we're already exploring, and we'll be bringing forward some further information on that as part of the capital budget and other projects in terms of the potential savings that we're seeing just by being potentially a member of this Clean Air Partnership as a result of us helping to move forward and advance the climate change action plan that has been adopted by council. We're already seeing the potential benefits and cost savings as a result of, from a staff perspective, is fairly minimal cost from a membership perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Swever.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. And, you know, I'm glad to hear we're funding this on a per resident basis. Because I guess that means we're considering this a special area service and doing it on a population basis at 2 cents per resident, or because when I do the math, I see it costing our residents 5 cents based on the percentage of the county budget we fund. So I don't object at all to this. I say that in jest, and 5 cents, even at 5 cents a resident for the residents of the Blue Mountains, I think there's support to do this. Thank you.
Okay. You don't miss the opportunity, do you, sir? All right, I don't, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, Councillor Mackey, please.
Okay, thank you. So we're being told about the benefits. How will the benefits be analyzed, and at what point will they be analyzed to make sure we are receiving the benefit?
Through the chair, one of the commitments in the overall Going Green and Grey plan is an annual reporting on progress in implementing the plan. And certainly, I think there's space within that framework to talk about any partnerships or memberships that we have initiated and report back on what has been achieved in those partnerships or memberships. And that would be presented to council for your review on an annual basis.
Okay, it's time to call the question. All those in favor of the motion, which is to approve the minutes and to become a member of the Clean Air Council and to implement the multi-year planting plan and to host a fall 2022 community planting event. All those in favor?
Mr. Warden, I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Councillor Mackey,
In favor.
Counselor Mackey is in favor. Counselor Gamble. Counselor Gamble is opposed. Counselor Burley.
Favor.
Counselor Burley is in favor. Counselor Carlton.
In favor.
Counselor Carlton is in favor. Counselor McQueen.
In favor.
Counselor McQueen is in favor. Counselor Desai.
Favor.
Counselor Desai is in favor. Counselor Patterson.
In favor.
Counselor Patterson is in favor. Warden Hicks.
Yay.
Warden Hicks is in favor. Counselor Clumpus.
In favor.
Counselor Clumpus is in favor. Counselor Keaveney.
In favor.
Counselor Keaveney is in favor. Counselor Body.
In favor.
Counselor Body is in favor. Counselor O'Leary.
In favor.
Sorry, I read it and in my head thought Thomas and then still said O'Leary. Counselor Thomas is in favor. Counselor Woodbury. Counselor Milne. Counselor Milne is in favor. Counselor Soever.
In favor.
Counselor Soever is in favor. Counselor Bornignon.
In favor.
Counselor Bornignon is in favor. Counselor Robinson.
In favor.
Counselor Robinson is in favor. Counselor Hutchinson.
In favor.
Counselor Hutchinson is in favor. The motion carries 84-3.
Thank you very much. So moving on. We are now on item 7C, yes. Put Scott on deck. And we need a mover to put the item on the floor. I'm looking for a mover. Moved by Councillor Bordignon, seconded by Councillor Mackey. Scott, you have the floor.
So yeah, thank you, Warden Hicks and members of council. I will try to keep this brief because I realize that lunch is pending here. I mean it this time though. So what we have before us is not just a plan of subdivision, but from what I've heard this morning, a budding opportunity for young skilled tradespeople in the area. So what we have is a 21 hectare site in the town of Blue Mountains, and this is on the eastern end of the town of Blue Mountains. You can see Gray Road 21 just on the far right side of the map there. To the west of the development is the Second Nature development. To the north is Montera Golf Course, and to the south is the Windfall development, sorry. And then across Gray Road 21 on the east side is the town of Collingwood in that regard. These lands are designated as a settlement area in the county official plan. So they are similar to the report that Randy presented this morning. They are in the recreational resort area, and that is defined in the county plan as a settlement area. In the town plan, they are in the residential recreational area designation. I will say, and you can see it from the air photo, roughly half of the property is currently cleared. And then you see a significant amount of trees in sort of the western half of the property. There will be, and you'll see it in the coming draft plan, a number of these natural areas that are retained and kept in a natural state in that regard. The proposed subdivision at this point is looking at 82 detached dwellings, 72 semi-detached dwellings, as well as large blocks for open space and environmental protection lands. There'll be trails going through the new streets, of course, and the parkland. The proposed lots will front onto new internal roads, and those roads will connect to Gray Road 21 in the east and Stoneleigh Drive in the west, which is part of the Second Nature development. One of the interesting points about this, and maybe I'll just go back a slide, is that the parkland in this case is being focused in the far southwest corner. And kudos to town council and town staff in this regard, because what they've done is they've focused the parkland here in the southwest corner, and they focused it adjacent to the parkland in both the Windfall development and the second nature development. So what's going to end up happening here is you have a larger block of parkland for more of a regional park rather than some of the smaller kind of parkettes that we're used to in other locations. So in this regard, this regional park will have a greater impact than even just this development in that regard. There are a number of studies as per usual that were done in association with this. There was a zoning amendment required from the town, and that's recently been passed by the town of Blue Mountains, who not only passed the zoning amendment, but also gave some draft plan conditions that should be considered with this proposed development. There have been a number of changes on this one in respect of the development form from the time the development was originally applied for in 2019. This was the original plan. The key differences are there was about 25 more lots on the original plan. We had 2 cul-de-sacs in the north, and we had less area for environmental protection. Fast forward to the new plan that's before us today in 2022. You can see the cul-de-sacs in the north are gone in exchange for that crescent road. We have less lots because we have greater environmental protection lands, and we can see some further changes to the road network that were done in response to both Conservation Authority and environmental peer review comments that certain areas need to have heavier protection. The parkland that I was referring to is this block 119 in the southwest of the development. We did receive comments from a number of members of the public and the standard agencies. These comments were all appended to the Town of Blue Mountains staff report, which is also linked to in our own staff report. I won't go through them in any detail. There were a few other comments that weren't included in the town staff report that I'd just like to touch on very briefly. There was a comment from a local resident who had concerns with some tree cutting that had occurred on the site prior to when we received the application. In this case, similar to the report Randy presented this morning, it was based on them needing to do some studies and do some works on site. So they did remove some trees. In response to this complaint, we did look at it through our county forest management bylaw. At that time, it was decided that it was not worth pursuing charges because the occurrence had occurred greater than 6 months prior. But this is something we flagged for the coming update to the forest management bylaw. The town, as I noted, provided the recommended draft plan conditions through a staff report. When that staff report went through their committee and council system, council added one additional draft plan condition recommendation with respect to requiring a memorandum of understanding for attainable housing. In this case, happy to report that memorandum of understanding has already been signed between the developer and the town. County staff, however, are not requiring this or are not recommending this condition be attached to this draft plan approval based on some of the challenges we've highlighted at earlier meetings with respect to our legislative ability in that regard. We did receive a number of other comments that were much more along the lines of just inquiries on the status of the project or when it might open up in terms of people being able to buy lots, and staff have responded to those inquiries directly in that regard. With respect to the planning analysis, again, similar to Randy's report this morning, this one was received just prior to the passing of Recolor Gray. So it is actually tested under a slightly different policy framework. We were pleased that the developer was so willing to work with town and county and Conservation Authority staff to address some of the concerns related to the cul-de-sacs, to address some of the concerns related to allowing for greater environmental protections on site. This is a somewhat unique site in that it spans 2 different Conservation Authorities watersheds. So we worked very closely with both Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority staff, as well as the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority staff. And then we had a joint peer reviewer looking at the environmental aspects between the town and the county in that regard. As I said, they are providing a roughly 50-50 mix of singles and semis. The units at this stage, as far as we know, won't be affordable. But as I noted, there is the memorandum of understanding that's been entered into with the town that might look at some future attainable housing on another site owned by this developer in that regard. There was a detailed planning analysis that you can find in the staff report, and certainly if there are any questions here today, I'd be happy to speak to any of those. But staff are of the opinion the proposed subdivision has regard for matters of provincial interest. It's consistent with the provincial policy statement, and it conforms to the Niagara Escarpment County and town plans in that regard. With that, we're recommending that report be received and that draft plan subdivision be granted in this regard, subject to the conditions set out in the notice of decision, which was attached to the report. So with that, certainly happy to take any questions if there are.
And Councillor Milne will have the first teasing. I knew you were ready for lunch, so. Councillor Soever, you're first.
Yes, and I'm very pleased with this report and certainly the developer here. As Scott mentioned, the developer is has entered into a memorandum of understanding with our Attainable Housing Corporation to include some affordable units on another development nearby. Also, with regards to the provincial policy statement, we keep going back to the county official plan, but we are also looking now at the provincial policy statement. What much we can look at it will be determined by the current Ontario Land Tribunal thing we're involved with. But this developer is providing a range of housing types. We keep mentioning just affordable, but the other aspect of the provincial policy statement is a range of housing types. And indeed, when we did ask the developer's planner at our council meeting what the price point of these units would be, he didn't know at the time, but then by 3:07 p.m. I see on the email here of the same day, he reported Royalton Homes, the developer, had advised that the pricing here will range from $660,000 to $1.5 million. Now that is just indicative pricing because we know that market conditions can change, but it just goes to show that if you ask, you will get an indication of what the pricing is. With regard to the staff report, I think it's excellent. There is one comment that is a bit troubling, though, is where it says this area of the town is not best suited for affordable housing. This is right next to the Windfall development, in which many years ago the developer agreed to provide affordable housing in response to some additional density that was provided. So, it's very nearby. It's by transportation. It's within walking distance to jobs at the village. So if this area of the town is not best suited for affordable housing, is there actually any area of the Blue Mountains that is suitable? That is my question.
Sure, through you, Mr. Warden. Thank you for those comments and the question, Councillor Soever. I think in this regard, if we were to look at the locations for affordable housing as a spectrum, in my opinion, and certainly that's subject to debate, Thornbury might be perhaps the best suited. The development that Randy presented this morning might be on the lower end of the spectrum, and the development that I'm presenting here, the Blue Vista, might be somewhat in the middle. As you've noted, it is close to employment, and certainly there's lots of employment in the village in that regard. It's a lot closer to Collingwood than the development Randy presented this morning. It isn't, in immediate proximity to certain services like schools and grocery stores and arenas and the like, but there is certainly a lot going for this location that many other locations in the town don't have going for them. So maybe I used poor wording choice in my report, and maybe this is a slightly better location than I gave it credit for.
Thank you for that. And I would point out it's also on the Collingwood bus line.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any other. Oh, Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Scott, thanks for the report. Just wondering, when a developer does cut down a number of trees, is there any requirement to replace those trees somewhere else? I'm just wondering if the corresponding amount that we are supported earlier in regards to planting trees here could be made up through developers cutting trees.
Through you, Mr. Warden, and great question, Councillor Mackey. It's something that we have explored with the two conservation authorities in this case and the peer reviewer. And so there are some recommendations in the draft plan conditions that would help see some replanting. It's not necessarily a one-for-one in that regard, but you've actually raised a point that you're going to be hearing more about in the near future, because we're actually proposing some changes to official plan amendment number 11 to look at codifying that a little further in policy. policy to allow staff to ask for some of those compensation or replantings in that regard. So it's something that some conservation authorities in the province have just started to do, and some municipalities are now venturing into that territory. So we've put in some sample wording in OP 11. We've run it by our local conservation authorities, and we're certainly happy to get public and council input on that in the near future.
Councillor Soever?
Yes, and further to that, Mr. Warden, we are currently in the middle of coming up with a tree bylaw, which will complement the counties on woodlands and the Niagara Escarpment Commission. And I would urge all municipalities to look at a tree cutting bylaw, because we've recognized through the development process that cutting down trees before a pre-servicing agreement or a development agreement is signed has been a significant problem in the town of Blue Mountains. And there was a loophole in that properties that weren't covered by the county tree bylaw and the Niagara Escarpment Commission rules. There was a problem in our settlement areas, so we are in the process of bringing in a tree cutting bylaw. Now, I caution other municipalities, it is very controversial, but there is a problem there in that, you know, once there is a pre-servicing agreement or a development agreement, you can put tree protection zones in there. But we were finding that prior to that, areas were getting clear cut. And so it is an issue. And to Councillor Mackey, I would urge that, you know, development is coming our way from the city with the great deurbanization we've been seeing. So as the developers arrive, that is an area of concern, and hopefully we can preserve as many trees as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's it. I don't see any other hands, so I will call the question then. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. So we're going to break for lunch. It's 12:40. So that's one. We come back at 1:15. So 1:15. And I guess I will say sharp.
Okay.
Okay, it's 1:15 and we're back. Welcome back, everyone. We are now on to item 7D. That puts Anne Marie on deck. We're dealing with the regulatory changes, Housing Services Act amendments. I need a mover to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Hutchison and seconded by Councillor Thomas. Anne Marie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. I believe I did put together a little presentation too, just to sort of keep me in line, in order. But this is basically the community housing and renewal strategy that was released in 2019 from the province, was aimed to modernize and streamline community housing service delivery. And as part of that renewal, the province enacted Bill 184, Protecting Tenants and Strengthening Community Housing Act. So as part of that, the province has released some new changes to our regulations, and I'm just going to provide you an overview of them. The first one is a new service system amendment. So as you're aware, we currently have a coordinated access system that includes Grey County Housing, all of our nonprofit units, our affordable units, and any rent supplements. So that allows one application to be made so that a person doesn't have to apply to all the different various housing around Grey County. So we're doing this, but as part of the changes, we must now provide all forms of assistance, such as rent supplements, affordable, on one wait list. So this was something that Grey County was already doing, but the legislation has made it official now. Next is changes to the income and asset limit. In 2011, when the Housing Services Act came into effect, there was a part of the regulations that said that you could choose to put in an income or an asset limit. Back in 2011, we chose to do that. It ensures that we are providing housing to the people that require the housing. So in other words, it's the people that need it most are getting it. So that is something that we already had in place. We use what's called the HILS, so it's the household income limit, and that is provided by the province. And it does provide a different income for different sizes of bedrooms that are required. So that's something that we are already doing. The assets, we have to be at least 50,000. We have ours set at 50,000. We do have some wiggle room there. For instance, if someone was selling a home that they owned or whatnot, there are regulations around that. And social assistance clients are exempt from our asset limit rule. Our service managers, we have the discretion to exempt households in extenuating circumstances, and sometimes that could be a family that's going through a divorce. So we wouldn't look at their household as a whole for assets, we would look at it as 50%. So in order to qualify. And we do periodic reviews and update our local income and asset limits annually if there is a change. So just to give you an idea for Grey County, the current household income limits are as follows by bedroom, and that is based on what the province sets for Grey County. But in actual fact, when I looked back in at December of 2031, December 31st of 2021, we normally do a report that we provide information to the province, and those are the actual incomes of people that were living with us. You can see that they are quite low. So we feel that we are providing housing to the people that we should be providing housing, and our asset limit remains at 50,000. Next change that came in is our service level standards change. So effective July 1st, additional types of housing that are funded by ourselves are allowed to count towards existing service levels. When the province downloaded housing from the province to us in 2001, it came with a set of rules that requires us to have 1,215 units of subsidized housing. This was based on the number of units that were devolved to us. Those can now include rent supplements and supportive housing housing units as long as they are equal to an RGI and providing the subsidy. They do not qualify any of the affordable housing units that we're building because it is a deeper subsidy. So we currently have 1,186 units as of December 31st, a little bit below that, but some of that is due to the CERB that some of our families received and some of our seniors. So it would have put them slightly over the income limits. Next year, we'll probably be back to the same. The one thing to note too is that the 12 units of subsidized housing that we are creating, the supportive housing will count also towards this level. And that's why when we say if we sell a unit, we have to replace it because we always have to have 1,215 units available. This next change is probably the one that's going to have the most impact going into the future. So this is service and exit agreements for our nonprofits. As you know, we have 9 nonprofits in which we provide a subsidy, and those operating agreements are coming to an end. So in other words, their mortgages are coming to an end. So we now have to look at negotiating a new agreement with the nonprofit providers. All of our nonprofit providers agreements are expiring between 2023 and 2027. So the new service agreement, the province did outline some provisions. There must be a financial plan provided, and we will work with our nonprofits in order to get that financial plan in place. We do provide our building condition assessments every 5 years to our nonprofits, so we will work with them to make sure that there is a financial and a capital plan for 10 years. The agreement length that we would enter into them would be a minimum term of 10 years. Selection rules for coordinated access. So in other words, they still have to offer for people that are on our wait list. We will enter into an agreement on a process to manage issues of non-compliance and dispute resolution. Right now, the Housing Services Act outlines a process in which we could use, but once the agreements are done, then they no longer have to follow those HSA regulations. And the next is a 10-year capital plan. So we will ensure as a financial plan that they have an operating subsidy that will allow them to be viable, that they have a financial plan and capital plan that's going to be funded in order to keep those units available to us. And also there is a provision in there too for any remaining funds to go towards the development of affordable housing, and whether that's through the nonprofit or through ourselves. So one of the things, if they do decide to enter into an agreement with us, is they must continue to participate in the mandatory Housing Services Corporation programs. They do have a choice to exit. If they choose to exit, then we would enter into an agreement that would ensure that the units, the people that are living there, are provided still with a subsidy. And if they were to sell, then there would have to be some sort of agreement upon what that looks like too at the time, because of all the investment that has gone in from the county and from the province to these buildings. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Anne Marie. Council? Any questions? Councillor Mackey?
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Thanks, Anne Marie. Just under the income and asset limits. So the service manager is required, the one exclusion is the registered retirement plans. Can you just talk about, is that general, like any retirement, like is that a registered retirement, like any income? So you could have someone that had a lot of money, if that's excluded, they would still be eligible? Whoops, sorry.
That is correct. If they did have registered retirement RSPs, then that does not count towards it. We've yet to see that though. Normally with a lower income, the income limit of about $30,000 a year, a person doesn't necessarily have that. But they also may choose to do something else if they do have those funds. So those funds could help them monthly to live somewhere else. So a lot of the times we have not seen that yet, where someone's coming in with a very large amount of retirement savings. But technically, yes, if they make the income limit. And those are provincial rules.
Councillor Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Anne Marie, for the report. The service and exit agreements that have changed, is there potential there for, and as you quite rightly stated, of course, that, you know, we have to maintain that 1,215 or whatever it was units from devolution. Going forward, if we were to, you know, divest ourselves of, you know, a number of units to make up that 1,215, is there opportunity to create like a boarding house style of, like, does a unit have to be like a house, or can it be just a living unit as, you know, like a boarding room house or a boarding room accommodation? Thank you.
It could be a bachelor unit, but that would be I guess in order to replace RGI housing, it's usually a bachelor unit. If we were looking at some sort of congregate setting, it could possibly go towards that, but we know that the province is sort of moving away because of the pandemic and various other reasons of congregate setting, that they're looking more at that individual unit.
Okay, thank you.
I do not see anyone else. So we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, Anne Marie. We're on next to 7C. We're dealing with the award of 2 tandem trucks. We're going to have that fancy video again, are we? No? Okay. All right, I need a mover to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Patterson. And you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This is a relatively simple report with the exception that this is for tandems for 2023 year. So you haven't seen the budget of the 10-year capital yet. And this is basically caused just because of the timelines of getting this equipment are getting longer and longer. So we took a report in early May about budgeting prior to the 23 budget approval, and the tender closed June 29th. You will also notice in the report, the trucks are about 67,000 more than they were last year, which is an increase of over 21%. So like everything, you know, inflation is hitting our equipment as well. And the other thing to notice is just that we won't get them until late 23 or maybe 24. So that timeline is really getting out there. So we want to get out there early and get in the queue and award it, of course. And one other thing, the lifetime stainless steel oil pan, our mechanics have found that that's a worthy investment on our part. So this report is to award the sale of the 2 tandems to Lewis. And they're a pretty frequent vendor, so we've used them quite a bit.
Thank you very much. Any questions from anyone? Councillor Milne?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I'm not going to ask my good friend at the podium if he's going to electrify these trucks, at least not yet. But what I would like to ask is, given the dramatic increase in the cost of these vehicles, does that change the calculations about how long we keep the older trucks as opposed to turning them over as fast because of the increased cost? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. Not as much how long we keep them. You know, we have a fleet report that kind of recommended a period, and that's what we're using, but it really does make an impact on what we're charging ourselves for that equipment. Because all that equipment, it's kind of a flat rate reserve or whatever. We put, money in and we take money out of the reserve. But it really makes a difference in all our other activities. So our plowing is, a little bit more because the truck's more, and you just have to keep putting away so we don't go into a reserve. So Calvin in finance always has his reserve charts. And, if we don't put enough away, then you see all of a sudden in 2027, you have a huge deficit. So we're always kind of adjusting those things just to make sure that we have enough to replace our equipment when it's due. We do have, like in our fleet meeting every year, those replacement schedules are not cast in stone. Our mechanics have a lot of opinions on what equipment has been good. We have all the data on which ones are getting more work than others. So they spend a lot of time making sure we're not jumping the gun or selling a good piece of equipment, or we're not going to sell it just because it said so on a piece of paper, right? So that's kind of how we handle that.
continue to sell what does to Georgia Bluff.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you.
Don't react. Counselor Hutchison, you're next.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Warden. I guess my question is with the value of the trucks going up 21%, I'm assuming that our resale value would have to go up higher as well when you go back into to sell the used equipment. And like, to me, it's got to be getting close to that number because everything else is up on resale.
Well, our most recent ones that we put on Gov Deals weren't really noticeably. 5 tons though. Oh yeah, they were different. They weren't tandems. They were 5 tons, but we didn't notice a big increase in them. In tandems, I'm assuming we would. But you know, we kind of get what we get on those sometimes.
Looking around, I don't CAO.
Counselor Hutchison, if I may, would it be your experience that that it would be reasonable to expect the resale to follow? Is that, I think you have some experience.
Well, thank you for the question. Well, yeah, I do. I've noticed in the transportation trucking industry that the resale of used trucks is up tremendous, like from where it used to be. And that's what I was just trying to ask is I see 21% on the new, and yes, we're experiencing the same. So I think at a resale level, things seem to be offsetting the increase on the new. That's what I was trying to get to. So thank you, CEO.
If I may, Mr. Warden, it may be that we need to look at alternative ways of disposing of equipment. Maybe trucks aren't, maybe Gov Deals is not the only way or the best way to be looking at that, but that's the policy that we have at the minute. Yeah.
And just the one thing I would add is just with the timeline. So the timeline is, and I think us internally, we kind of struggle in the budget because you have, you know, a line for buying equipment, a line for selling equipment. Well, you're buying equipment in 22 that's going to come in 24. You can't sell the other equipment till you get the new equipment. So it's just hard to know exactly how that kind of washes out in the end. You know, you'd hope by the time you can sell the old equipment, you hope the new equipment that you paid more for is still worth. Does that make sense? I'm just confused myself, but anyway, you know what I mean.
That's fine. Oh, sorry, Counselor Hutchison.
Thank you. You took me along with you down the confusion lane there. So, no, again, this is specialized equipment. I got that from a general tractor trailer combination. I'm just saying, like I even know because we haul some of that used equipment in our, you know, floats and stuff, and I've seen the values going up. Again, it could be isolated just because of where we're at, but I think, you know, it's worth checking out a couple of different alternatives when you get to that, because I do think the industry is going up in value on used equipment, and there's a lack of it or shortage of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden McQueen.
Yeah, just comment, it's probably supply and demand that drives a lot of the price for new and used. But my question to you, Mr. Warden, to the director is, a few years ago, we were trying out a system of trucks that had removable boxes and tanks and switching things around. And I just wondered how that system is working out. These are tandems, I presumably for snow plowing and stuff, but I just wondered are you still intrigued with that, or are you moving away from that? Just curious.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, they've gone very well. They're used a lot more in the summer than our old trucks were. All the guys love the additional parts, and we're soon going to have 4, right? They're still being built. I think the other 2, aren't they? Yeah, there's 2 more coming that we've already ordered. So that'll give us 1 in each patrol. So they really get pretty heavy usage, which is nice.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
And next is Councillor Robinson.
Thank you very much, Warden, and I really appreciate this report. I'm just wondering, Pat, could you please let us know, how does this purchase dovetail with our climate action plan in terms of, our fleet maintenance, and just that climate action lens comment would be appreciated. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. And we've been spending a lot of time on this because, the life of those trucks are 12 years. We're very cognizant that we don't want to get stuck with a fleet of gas vehicles that are dropping in value, for example. We currently can't get an electric tandem, and we're kind of setting out maybe 27, 28. We might be able to start getting them. So at some point, we're going to, we're going to keep going on with this. Our fleet management is kind of a living document that we're going to try to maximize our return on those. So whether you have to drag a few out for a few years, or, and again, what we've been told on electric vehicles is we're not getting a government discount that we get on other things. That is right this moment right now. Maybe in 4 years that won't be the case. So we spend a lot of time with the fleet, kind of working on our long-term plan, but it's one of those things where there's kind of not enough information. If the network can handle it, we don't have the chargers. We don't know how durable the electric tandem trucks, for example, are going to be, because they're running all the time. You're not going to stop a plow route to pull over and charge for 40 minutes or whatever. I guess that's why we're starting with that system to see how much is it going to cost us to get these charging stations, figure out if our network can handle it and what kind of upgrades we need there. So we're slowly working towards an electrified fleet. But we're not ready to take the first, well, we just can't because they're not available, but it's just not as quick a process as we would like.
Thank you for the comments. Very detailed.
Okay, I think we're ready to call the question. All those in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. And thank you, Pat. Next on deck is Savannah. We're going to be dealing with item 7F, which is the Sydenham Campus Innovation Update. I need a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Body. Savannah, you have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Really happy to be able to provide you a mid-year check-in. Hard to believe that we are already through the mid-year, but we wanted to be able to give you an update on what's happening at Sydenham campus, how things are going, and what we're seeing. What is really exciting for us is that now, beginning in 2022, even though we had planned to start Sydenham in 2020, we are finally realizing our vision, because we're able to start utilizing the building the way that we wanted to, and start to bring that business plan to life, get people into the building, and really see things start to flourish. What we find the most value in is that mix of tenants, the mix of people, the mix of clients that are coming through the door, like-minded individuals who are able to help one another grow and innovate through their business or individually. So year one of our FedDev funding focused on the launch of Catapult's FastLane Plus program and their mentorship programs, which is currently underway. And now that we're in year two, we're looking to the Fab Lab and the development of that for our regional entrepreneurs and our employers. So looking at the tenants that we have in the building, one key being our Business Enterprise Center, which is run right now by Courtney and Lene. Our summer company and starter company programs are up and going. Those are our mandatory provincial programs that we run through the Business Enterprise Center. And some really interesting themes we're seeing this year. Of no surprise, and very similar to what Dave just talked about this morning, our students are in high demand. We weren't actually able to fill all 6 of our spots for our program because the students are unable to work full-time and the employers really wanted them at work. So they were turning down our opportunity to be able to trial entrepreneurship through a grant program, because they wanted to keep that employment because their employers are so desperate to have them there. So that was something we haven't encountered before. This was a first. And it's also something that we're talking to the province about, because we really think that, those hours of work required to be able to participate in a program really should be readjusted given the labor pool that we're in today. We also saw a change in the companies coming through our Starter Company Plus program.
So notable this year, there were no hospitality or tourism businesses. There were no trades businesses, which is very unusual for this program. But we did, for the first time, have 3 medical and medical research companies and 3 food-based businesses come through. So that's a significant change, and I think very in keeping with what we're seeing right across the industry. Really exciting news to share as well is that we were successful in receiving our funding for the Digital Main Street program to be able to support digital service squads for our member municipalities and our businesses. So this program is now in its 4th iteration. We hadn't looked at it before now because until the 3rd iteration, it was only focused on main streets. And for Grey County, we didn't think that that was the time or place for us to be looking at it. But once those boundaries were removed, it made a lot of sense that we would, go after this funding in this program. And it has been run very successfully around the province now in its 4th iteration, as I mentioned. So this funding will cover 7 of our 9 municipalities. Unfortunately, we're not able to serve Meaford or Blue Mountains because they are already served through the South Georgian Bay Business Enterprise Center. So knowing this and knowing that those organizations were not eligible through our programming, we wanted to be as consistent as possible to make sure that all of our businesses, no matter where you are in the county, are receiving the same sort of supports and the same type of funding opportunities. So Courtney worked very closely with Tim, who is her counterpart at the Collingwood Enterprise Center, and we have modeled our program completely on their program. So if you look at our RFP, it looks pretty much the same as their RFP because we wanted that consistency right across the board. So that program will kick off this September. We launched the RFP this morning. So that is on the market. If you know of anybody who would be willing to do this work with us, we are looking for somebody to coordinate and to develop that digital service squad because we just don't have the capacity in-house, but we didn't want to lose the opportunity for this funding. So that is some really great news coming out of the Business Enterprise Center. Catapult Grey Bruce, some great news there as well. We have 8 companies who are going through the acceleration programming right now. Their first cohort will wrap up August 31st of this year. And through those 8 companies, as well as the 16 companies who have received formalized mentorship because of the FedDev program, we've had 66 jobs maintained and 1 job created through the program. So that's pretty good considering we just started this in December. The numbers are great. The Catapult Tech Network and the Crash Pad at Sydenham are also up and running. So really happy to see those 2 programs as well and provide more meat to the programs offered through Catapult. And on May 31st, after a year of successfully launching Catapult Grey Bruce, Jennifer Christie resigned and moved on back into her business world, actually, because it's really hard to take an entrepreneur out of the entrepreneurship world, knowing that she has that drive to get back. So she has gone back to continue her entrepreneurial pursuit. And after a successful search, we were pleased to welcome Catherine Love to the position of executive director. So she took over on May 16th and is currently hitting the ground running and will be here to see you hopefully in the next little while. Today she was in Barrie at the Sandbox, which is another organization that Catapult is working quite closely with because there's a lot of good lessons and a lot of good learnings that can come this way. Looking a little bit more broadly at the campus clients, that is really for us our key performance indicator. As I said, we're creating an environment and an ecosystem only happens when you have the right people in the building. So we're very, very fortunate right now to have healthcare micro-credential training, which you heard about a couple meetings ago from YMCA. We have childcare running, we've got business startup and scaling services, we have education, and we have health and safety training all happening at Sydenham right now. And one of the pieces that Dave mentioned this morning was a specialist high skills major demonstration day that we hosted with our neighbor Georgian College, and we saw over 400 students come through that day. All of our classrooms are full, our gym and the entire backfield showing demonstrations of all of the different trades and apprenticeship programs that the high schools are running. So next year it will expand to both school boards, and we will have over 1,000 students who are coming through in 2023. So really great news. We were also pleased to host Elections Ontario, which may not have seemed like a fit to where we're going, but it's government service, and knowing how many people were going to be walking through that door, it really helped us introduce people to what Sydenham is and what we're doing there. So we had a lot of eyes opening as they were coming through the door, realizing just what we had in Grey County. So that helps us get that word out, knowing that we need all the resources we can to spread the word across the county. So we'll start to market Sydenham shortly. but we're doing pretty good so far. We've invoiced just over $58,000 in our tenants and our rentals this year so far as of May 31st. So knowing that is a primary source of revenue for the campus, it is something that we're very much committed to. Where we're heading now and why Steve isn't here to co-present with me is Fab Lab. So we have a wonderful group of volunteers that are in the final stages of forming a not-for-profit organization to run the day-to-day operations of the Fab Lab. And the reason why we are so excited about this group and they are so valuable is because they are a group of makerspace experts from across the province who have come to assist us and get our feet under our ground, get everything up and going. These people have been through this before. They are actively involved in makerspaces across Ontario. We have retired shop teachers locally as well, who are all participating and helping us get the Fab Lab up and going. And all of that is happening through a lot of industry consultation as well. So we are happy to say that our RFPs are closing, our smaller items have all been listed. It is currently with FedDev for final approval, and hopefully by next week, we'll be able to start buying that equipment and get it in, knowing we're not quite as far behind as poor Pat's trucks. But we do know it's going to be several months before we see anything come through those doors. So we want to start that process now. And where we were originally looking to take over 4 classrooms, realizing now that we're in the building and it's being occupied, there's a lot of noise that could come and vibration within the building, not outside the building, because the equipment that we're getting is not, huge industrial equipment. This is prototyping equipment. This is entrepreneurial equipment. But we don't want to disrupt the building. So we have pushed it down a little bit further into the west wing of the school. And that will also give us the ability to take over that entire wing, knowing that we need a little bit more space and staging area, given the feedback from this not-for-profit group. And last but not least, our capital projects. So we've had 2 major capital projects done this spring. Our parking lot expansion is complete. So that was required as part of our site plan to allow us to occupy that west wing of the building. So that is in the final stages, and we are also finishing the final roofing project that was identified through the 5-year ramp project as part of the BCAs. So happy to say that we are no longer leaking anywhere in our roof, and we have an excellent building standing in front of us now. So the next piece that we will look at internally is the HVAC systems, and very aligned to what you heard this morning as well on the climate change piece. We're really looking quite closely at that, because this year we will exceed the budget of $70,000 we set aside for hydro, because that's what it costs to operate the heat and the cooling in Sydenham alone. Because of the units, we have 26 individual electric units, which we have been told, because they're electric, are considered green. So we are not eligible for funding. So we're trying to be very creative in finding ways to assist our budget and to also make sure that we have the climate component in our head. So we will be working with Linda over the next little while to look at some feasibility for where we go from here, knowing that the units are in need of replacement. They were identified as something that's coming up, but we think we need to move on it sooner than later, because that is just not sustainable for an annual budget. So that is our update on what is happening with Sydenham. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Savannah. Now that the roof is fixed, what are we going to do with all the buckets? Council, any questions? Thank you for the presentation. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. All right, so we're on now with Pat back again. This time he is bringing the video. No, okay. So yeah, we're talking about the booster station agreement. And I need a mover, please, to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Robbins, Councillor Hutchison, and seconded by Councillor Bordignon. Pat, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. I feel like this is an equally good news story. As you know, 19 sorry. I'd like to thank Randy and Michael Eterno and Lacey. They've done a lot of work on this agreement. It wasn't the easiest thing to get to, but we're there now. So hopefully everyone's approving of it. So as you might remember, the memorandum of understanding was needed because in that 19 and 21 intersection, the town of Blue Mountains has a booster station there that needs to be moved as part of the project. So that being said, Hydro has basically said they're not going to finalize their relocation design until they know where that booster station is going and what it would require. So this MOU has kind of been, it has been an impediment to the project being completed or started and design being finalized. So the agreement has some important things. That Blue Mountain is going to contribute $1 million to the project. That Gray will secure the consultant services. So it's the consultant we've already been working with for years on the roundabout design. So it just made sense. They have a division that does that sort of design of the booster station. So they would be doing that. So it makes sense for that. The group design the road and the group design the booster station to work together. And that it would be located in a project or an area allowing for a future channel. So that channel at that intersection would be from eastbound traffic heading south. So at some point, you know, maybe 10 years from now, that there's going to be enough traffic at that intersection that a channel is going to be put in. And we wanted to make sure that when Blue starts to develop that Tees Please property, which I believe is kind of public knowledge now, that we have that channel secured so we can add the lane in there. The other thing, the total cost of the project right now, $2 million maybe for the booster station, which is probably at the low end. You know, if it's a year away from getting designed and the way prices are, I don't know. We haven't got an updated design. We haven't got a completed design. It was just an estimate, you know, 2 years ago. So, and then probably 100,000 or more now, probably to secure the services of the consultant. So that's kind of what our total cost is. 75% of our fees or our costs from that project are coming from development charges. And as you saw from Randy's map this morning, I mean, there's been a lot of development charges in that area because the development is really accelerated. So one more thing I just wanted to mention is this is sort of the first, like we've been designing it for a while, but this is the, you know, just one more step in all the intricacies of this project. So we have to straighten out with, you know, exactly where the land for the channel is going to go, like where exactly it's going to go, who's going to pay for it, what it's going to cost. You know, a lot of that land has just been acquired by Blue Mountains. The land for the booster station, it hasn't been decided where exactly that's going to go. And then just to add one more thing, there's a sanitary trunk as well that ends just north of that roundabout, which is probably going to have to be extended under the roundabout during construction phase somehow, because you know, you're going to dig it up and you might as well bury your pipe down there when you're doing that. So the first of many steps here to work with Blue Mountain to try to get this project moving. And it's still a long haul to go because Hydro hasn't started the relocation design even yet, or not finalized it anyway, nothing they would give us. So this is just a report to execute the agreement so we can get the consultant on board and get them started on the design.
Done? Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. Questions, council? I don't see any questions, so the motion is to receive the report and to prepare a bylaw for council's consideration. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, Pat. We have no closed meeting matters. We're on number 9, other business. Is there any other business? Seeing none. Are there any notices of motion? Then I will entertain.
Warden?
Yes, oh, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Soever.
Yes, I'm going to give a notice of motion that I want to bring in motion to the next meeting with regards to the monitoring provision, paragraph 9.4 of the Grey County official plan, which says that we will carry out monitoring and evaluation system that reviews and identifies the emerging social, economic, environmental, technological, and health trends in order to analyze the effectiveness of the plan. So I will be bringing a motion concerning that monitoring program.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with any other notices of motion? Okay, so seeing none, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Clumpus. And Councillor Gamble. There we go. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you, folks.